Welcome to the Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Maximum Gravy, Austin Whitsitt, John Kays, DL Hill, Julian Jeremiah, Michael Kahn, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Samson, Maris, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Neo the One, Lostcat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Dick Earth Skeptic, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I'm going to hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Must be like, oh no, we're going to the Flat Earth's house. You deliver the propane. No, you deliver the propane. No, you deliver the propane.
No, he's I didn't even mention Flat Earth. I didn't have to mention Flat Earth. I just mentioned the nonsense of gas pressure next to a vacuum.
They know who you are.
They do? Did you hear the coyotes?
Yeah, I can hear the coyotes.
Oh, they got a kill.
That's cool. That's cool.
Wow.
Yeah, that gives you some idea how sensitive your mic is, right? Literally the coyotes in your backyard.
No, they're not in my backyard. They're across the way, at least three and a half football fields.
God, I could listen to that for hours.
That's how good your mic is.
I didn't say
No,
good,
man.
Sensitive. That's what I said. I'm only joking. I'm being a mic snob because I've just got rid of a Blue Yeti that was on its last legs. I mean, I think it still works, but...
Well, it's just like you worked on your acoustics and room to get it the way you need it to be as the show host and making sure everything comes across good for everybody's listening experience. Now, if I take a little bit of time and do something, I'll probably up the game. I just don't know what to do yet.
You don't need to do anything. It's me fiddling at my end, getting just the right amount of limiter and compressor on your, whatever they call it, bus, I think they call it, your line.
Mm-hmm. So it being on the desk and not on an arm in the air, that won't make a difference.
Only if you tap it or tap the desk.
Well, there you go then. My arms are on the desk. So.
Yeah, I don't think that's it. It's just
there you are.
It's just the first initial gust of air that goes into the mic, but I wouldn't worry about it. I think it's perfectly fine. However, you've done whatever I've asked instantly, and now
Sure.
It's better. So don't worry about it from this point on.
Yeah, you got it.
What did you say, Neil?
I don't know. Tent just said,
Okay,
did you
I
say?
didn't understand it the second time either, but there we go.
Kent mumbled something. I didn't understand it either.
What the?
Before that, I said, everywhere you go, there you are.
I don't know. Maybe he's had no sleep or something. 10th. I don't know.
Everywhere you go, there you are.
Do I gotta explain everything to you guys? Come on, keep up.
Well, if you go somewhere, there you are, right?
Yeah, you do have to explain it sometimes. Even if you think everyone around you gets it, there's going to be people who are watching or listening that don't get it. So there could be someone in Discord right now that hasn't got a clue. And in this case, it's me. I don't know what you're talking about.
They'll get it when they watch the re-up.
Okay, fair enough.
You got your own little fan group there, Neil?
Well, Nathan impressed me because when I listened to the show yesterday with Matthew, I don't even want to say his last name because it's an embarrassment to Italians. But I just read an article, and the way he broke it down so fast, very, very, very impressive.
Wait, who broke what down? Matthew Capucci broke down what?
No, you. I just read a few things out of the article, and you do what you do by explaining it, and it was just really good. I liked it too.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
He's saying...
No, I get it. He's saying you're good at pulling stuff apart on the fly is what he's basically saying. Thank you, Neil. I take it as a compliment.
Yeah, you gleaned a lot out of just what Neil presented, more than Neil did.
Exactly. You explained it as you were explaining it. I was like, oh, yeah. That's what I read.
That's all I hear when I hear stuff like that. Witch fallacy. That's almost as I remember the article coming out. You know, I can remember it by order of fallacy. First, he used a begging the question fallacy and demanded we assume the sphere. Then he went on to, I don't know what you'd call it if it's an appeal to authority. I was taught when I was 4. I think he said in primary school. Yeah, I just remember fallacy after fallacy after fallacy, and then you can kind of rattle your way through what is presented by way of which fallacies is employed each time.
Which is the one where if everybody believes it and that's what everybody's saying, what is that, appeal to consensus?
Correct.
Yeah, I'm getting it.
I was going to say, I almost said it while you were saying it to me as a compliment. It's like, you could do all of that, Neil. I don't know why you're surprised that I can do it. You could do all of that. Exactly the same. Now, it might not be the case that you can just rattle it off bang, 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 because you're not sat in this seat doing it all day, every day. But by the same token, you kind of are. So I bet you could. I've got this document up 10th. Did you want to...
Oh, yeah. Thanks for nuts.
Yeah, but you can't ignore a certain skill set. You got that, so that's good.
So, with this document that you're showing, when we see responses from the ball side, the Glober side, they'll have a little bit of truth and a little bit of this. That's where the fallacy gets stuck in, since we're talking about fallacy when we're talking to them. But here, in this slide, well, let me just read it. The next thing we must know is the distance from our ship to the GP. It can be determined by measuring the Coyotes are going. It can be determined by measuring the altitude of the heavenly body above the horizon. For instance, if we observed a star at the altitude of 40 degrees, we can figure out the distance to the GP as 3,000 miles by computation. The distance from our ship to the GP of a heavenly body equals, you need that 90 right there, right? Minus the times 60 miles. See figure 3, page 33, blah, blah, blah. Distance from the ship to a GP of star. What's wrong with that picture? Is Adam Meekin here? He has a copyright strike against this.
Really?
No,
What?
I'm just joking.
It's
You can't have that.
Yeah.
90.
Yeah, it's not 90 degrees to anything. Where they've got the box. That's
Gee,
not
Adam,
90.
I didn't know you were here. I was just having fun with you.
Yeah.
I mean, so
Hold on, because I've got it on screen, right? We're laughing and joking. I'm going to tell you a little story just to segue away from this, right? I think it was my 3rd interview, Flat Earth UK, I interviewed a woman called Robin Poe, and she explained to me that she'd done a very long shot to try and get a connection to the original source of a radio transmission. So she's got a transceiver, she's setting it up, and they're told to set it up in relay every, let's say it's 20k, just for the sake of argument. So every 20k there's a relay. Now, she can't get the connection. There's too much terrain in the way. So instead of pointing back at the last relay point, she points it back, her transceiver, to the source, which is like 120 miles odd away or 110 miles away, and she gets a perfect signal. Now, she was told at the time by superiors who got involved quickly at a high level to take it down in no uncertain terms. And she wasn't told why, but high superiors got involved and she knew about it and knew that it caused a ruckus, basically. Now, she didn't think anything of it until she gave the interview. And at the point where she should have said, that means that there's no terrain between me and something 110 miles away. Earth must be flat for that to occur. But she didn't state it like that. She just laughed along with me because I knew what she meant, she knew what she meant, and she assumed everybody in the audience knew what she meant. But I spoke to my mother afterwards and I was like, did you understand how strong a proof that was? And she's like, no. I was like, but she explained it. And she's like, yeah, I didn't understand it. So I took her through it and explained, like I've just explained to this audience, what was being claimed. And then she got it. But it wasn't overtly stated. And from that episode to this, I've always thought, no, you've got to really hone in on what the point you're actually making is and how it's relevant. Now, in this case, I'm going to put my mouse at the 90-degree square box that hasn't got a straight line meeting it to make this a triangle that has 90 degrees. It's got a curve along the bottom. Now, their presupposition of this curve makes this box false. That's why this is wrong. This isn't 90 degrees if it's sat on a curve, which it is in this diagram.
Off mute. Yeah, exactly. So this is how they slip it in. And so because they've got, well, I put some more slides in there, as you can see. And
got on the next one now with a tangent plane at the bottom, GP at the top.
yeah, so there's your stars GP on the bottom one, and then your position circle and your position line, which is that part of the circle of equal altitude. And this is where you get your azimuth, your bearing. And that's when you go to the almanac, you find out where that thing is supposed to be at that exact hour, minute, and second you took the sighting. And then you work it out after that. But the whole point is, on the top picture, if it's on the sphere, it would have to be curved. But as the previous picture shows, you can't put that box there then. No, you can't do a 90 on the curved surface. That's why we say you're going to need a 90 for that. Go to the next slide. And then this one should say Chapter 1, Fundamentals of Astronavigation. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so basically here they got you near a coastline, and you got a lighthouse A, lighthouse B, and same principle applies, except shorter distances. And you have your charts, and wherever you're going, you can look up and see the structures of A and B lighthouse, the height and everything, but you still use your sextant in a vertical manner. And then you bring it down to the surface, and there's your two circle of equal altitudes, and there's your sailboat in relationship to that. Okay? Just like the bottom picture, it shows the GP of a heavenly body, which they'll call in many references lighthouse in the sky. Very similar idea. Next picture. Chapter 11 of this book, Taking Sight with Sextant. You're going to need a 90. I mean, they're telling you right there, you need a horizon. Now, how come this horizon is straight and the one before showed it on the curved surface?
Just pause
So
there
this
a
is
second,
the
just
thing.
pause a second, just one sec, just to show what we're talking about. So this line here is where it's going to get 90 degrees to the position. In this case, if it's the sun, you're going to get a 90-degree line to it, i.e. form a triangle with 90 degrees. And what Tenth is saying is if this horizon line is completely straight for this diagram to show how you're measuring an angle to it, why would it be the case that on the first diagram, I can flick back to it, I think it was that one. No, that one. No, that one. Why is it the case that on this line we haven't got a straight line coming out to the horizon as measured in the diagram that we were just on? It's got a bent line. Okay.
If I may comment on this, the last one, where he's looking at it and the sun is at an angular position to a 90 degree. So you got to have that 90 because the zenith above you is not where the sun is. The sun is at an angle between your zenith and the horizon. But you're going to go to the book and find out where this could be applied to the sun, where the GP of the sun is. So you're going to, because you got a GP and the sun's got a GP, and you're going to need a 90 to work it out. That's how the tool works. Go to the next slide. Note on figure 3, page 5. Do you see it?
Yep.
So here's the delusion. They've got you on a circle where the only vertex that could happen is at the central angle. And they show it here and saying that that's one, even though it shows 2 stars, that's really saying that's 1 star and the light is coming in parallel, which it doesn't. It comes in divergence. So that's one lie on this chart, because that's not reality. The second one is they got a horizon line that extends all the way across. And yet you're supposed to be on the bent sphere, which a sextant can't work on because you can't get an angle with a curved surface. So there's so many things wrong, but they don't pick up on it because they've been told they live on a sphere. So they just look at this and say, oh, that's how it works. But then go to the next slide and you find out this is from the manual of a sextant manufacturer.
They just don't understand.
And the last slide, I did a more of a close-up. They've been making precision marine sextants since 1925. Well, I'd like to see a precision instrument give me a curve and an angle from a curve. I'd like to see that instrument. I don't think the sextant's that instrument.
I've just drawn a couple of extra lines on that, on those first diagrams with what Nathan was saying.
10th minutes, just because the guys that make the sextant, they just don't understand.
Guys,
morning,
hold on
guys.
1 sec. I got your first diagram up with an actual 90 to make that box make sense, Adam. Feel free.
Yeah. So I've done, the first one's just the actual 90, is to show you where the line would be if you're taking 90 from your GP. And then the yellow line's just to go across and to show that it's quite clearly an obtuse angle way past 90. It opens the angle out if you're going to the actual point that you're claiming it's going to, but if you follow the 90, it goes nowhere near it. So.
Get a bit closer to your mic or something. You're a bit quiet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm drawing and sorry.
You're muttering away from your mic. Okay, it's not me.
Yeah.
When things like that happen, I start
leaning the other way.
I start fiddling. I'm glad.
Don't touch out. But yeah, hopefully that just visualizes the point that it's not 90. You can see where 90 would be in red, and that's the claim that they're making that angle is, and that's, to me, just demonstrates the falseness of the 90.
Did you see the slide that Flatsoy put up prior to your show today? So if you back up, Nathan, the slide before my slide.
One with the picture of a manual, not secure WASnet.
No, it's when you send out.
Is it note on Fig 3 on page 5?
No, not my slide. Just get off my slide and scroll back. Before I even put up a slide, that you have your show notice, and prior to your show notice, there's a picture from Flatsoid.
I've got it with the Flatsoid logo looking out 60 degrees, right?
Yeah. Well, there's your horizontal line. There's a sun somewhere in the ocean, and its GP is vertically, straight down. There's your plumb. So there's sun's GP. You're using the sextant from left to right, and you're going to bring that thing down with the double mirror right to the horizon, do your rocking to get your, your angle in degrees, your hours and minutes and seconds. And then you're going to go to the book, and it's going to tell you where you are. And yet at the same time, the sextant is a tool that's only designed for angle measurement. So where we kill this right at the inception is that the sextant cannot work on a curved surface. because it can't. It's made to measure angles. And unless they want to go, the anti-flat earthers and the ballers, and change how an angle is achieved, they're in a world of hurt here. We don't need to know the rest of the functions of the sextant. We just know it can never give you an angle from a bottom curved surface. It has to be flat, it has to be horizontal, it's got to be straight. That baseline is so important for a 90.
Perfect. Yeah, that's it. You can't do it with a curve. That's the bottom line, isn't it? This piece of equipment will not work if the surface you're using is curved.
Yeah, you're right. The bottom line is the bottom needs to be a line, not a curve.
Yeah, and the trick that they did.
The bottom line is the bottom needs to be a
Thank
line.
you, Chocolate. Way over
like
Thames
that.
Head.
Well, I was.
It was complex. It was complex.
No.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Adam Meakin, Neil, Chocolate Sayin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Afternoon.
Good morning, guys.
Yo.
Morning, hello, welcome one and all. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve?
You're going to need R for that.
Yep. Not in Oklahoma.
Formerly known. Don't they still spin that old wives' tale about boats going over the curve?
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to go far either. It's on plenty of other channels where they're still claiming how much drop there is. So, yeah.
So they're saying they have R?
No, I've asked them. Most recently, I saw Conspiracy Cats in Arwin's chat prior to his 1000th show. Big shout out to Arwin, by the way, for hitting 1000 early bird shows. Cool stuff. But, yeah, I asked him 10 times for R. And he asked me to meet him on a neutral platform as a reply.
Wow. I guess he
Maybe
can't
he
find
wants-
it either.
Maybe he wants to present R to you in a wonderful fashion. Maybe that's why he needs a big show and a presentation and all that, instead of just saying, "Hey, somebody measured this radius. Thanks. Here it is."
Well, you'd think
You
he'd
would
just
think.
offer it, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You would think so. They would just be like, "Hey, what do you mean? Here's where you didn't carry the one." You know?
So it's not sufficient. It's not sufficient anymore that the bottom of boats and buildings are disappearing as R-proof.
What's the bottom line, Adam? What's the bottom line?
Well, the bottom line is that the bottom needs to be a line.
I love that.
Hello, guys.
Hey, Aaron, congrats.
Hey.
Congratulations, Arwen.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Congratulations,
It was
Arwen.
a really great show.
Yeah, that's
Had a
what's
really
up,
good
man.
show.
Good stuff, bro.
Impressive, Arwen. Not an easy number to reach, mate. Really impressive.
Thank you.
Well done.
Well, it's had ups and downs, but yeah, I think I could go for another 1,000.
You're a bit quiet. I don't know if you're miles away from your mic or something.
I said it's had ups and downs, but I think I could go for another 1,000.
Oh, undoubtedly. Well, I hope so, as I tune in. So, yeah. Shout out to Godzilla37 who says, any evidence Nathan won't miss this super chat? Didn't miss it.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's good. I certainly tune in. So subscribe today to Arwin, ARWIJN. And he does a show that runs a couple of hours, if not an hour, depends on the day, before this show goes out. So whatever time this show goes out for you, wherever you are, an hour before, you're missing early bird if you're not tuned in already. So tune in. It hits 1,000th show today. Epic stuff.
Indeed, and I had a lot of people in chat today. Also, older people that have been in chat, like even a long time ago, came by again just to say hello. It was real nice. It was very crowded in my chat today. Great, good stuff.
Oh, excellent. I'm very pleased to hear that. It's always nice to have a nice show on your 1,000th.
Indeed.
So,
what's on the menu?
So far, Earth
Conspiracy
curve,
cast.
lack thereof, and R value, lack thereof.
Ooh.
So what does Conspiracy Cat say to Neil deGrasse Tyson when he says you can't see the Earth curve?
I don't know. I'd say you need R for that claim that you should or shouldn't see Earth curve.
Of course, but they have.
Why would you expect to see Earth curve?
Wait a second.
Well-
there was a guy that came on and left a comment in one of the videos that you made, Nathan. I'm going to find it, and he's claiming that you're fabricating this R value, and this guy's traveled the world and examines the structures of bridges. Let me go find it, so I'll come back correct.
I think the problem is they're the ones showing us Earth curve in pictures, as I showed earlier in the pre-show. They show us a sphere, and they got a tangent plane on it, a local tangent plane, and they're trying to tell us that we live on something that's spherical. And so, yeah, if you're going to show me in the picture I live on something curved, you better provide R. You better show me that curve, because I don't experience that curve.
I love when people bring up bridges and shit. It's like, oh yeah, the curvature in the bridge, that's nice. What about the flat water that's underneath it? What about the no curvature that you've ever measured underneath the bridge? Why are we talking about the bridge? What are you talking about? Are you serious?
I think that most bridges are pretty damn straight. It's only the short ones that tend to be a little curvy because of the architecture, making it a little bit more durable. But most long bridges are as flat as they come.
Are you guys kidding me? I mean,
Okay, I found it. Shall I read it?
Yeah?
Okay, it's a comment, so I don't even know. It's an equation, so I may get it wrong. It says F equals G, then in parentheses it has M1 star M2 slash R star 2, ends the flat earth story in less than a few seconds. This is why Nathan needs to pretend R doesn't exist. Let's just wait and watch. Studying suspension bridges around the globe, we can deduce the R equals H star D slash parentheses S slash 12 H equals height of the towers, D equals distance towers are apart at the base, and S equals the added separation at the top of the towers. 10 suspension bridges around the globe all come within 1.5% of the true radius of Earth. Will Nathan say all 10 bridges are wrong because they ruin his story too easily? Let's just wait and watch. There it goes. I could post
Baffle
it.
him with bullshit.
Can I address that?
If you want, George, feel free.
Well, anything that is built, it needs to be drawn first. And once it is built, it needs to respect whatever drawing says. So if the drawing says is you building on diagonal or whatever angle, that's what you're going to do as a builder. So if the project of a bridge says that the bridge is all the pillars are plumbed, all the pillars are plumbed, meaning they all run parallel to each other. If the architect draws differently, we'll have to respect the drawing because that's what we're trying to achieve. Now, to assert this unexistent vertical drop, even on suspension bridges, it's a long shot.
Yeah.
It just sounds like begging a question to me. Like, okay, that's nice for the bridge. Where's the curve of the Earth?
Nathan, I got 2 pictures of Master B that will help Chocolate's point get across.
Chocolate, this guy has checked out these bridges around the globe. Are you kidding me? No,
Okay,
what are you talking about?
That sounds like a conclusion all in the assertion. That's nice.
Okay, I've got your image up, 10th man, first bridge.
Yeah, I mean, it's the design of the bridge. It has nothing to do with the surface of the Earth. They could have easily made this bridge straight. Look how high above the river it is. And then, as the gentleman said earlier, look at the columns or the pillars. They're vertical. I mean,
That's
this
right.
guy's it's like the movie. He went a bridge too far.
The bridge.
Yeah, that's pretty
the bridge is
asinine.
curved. The bridge is curved because that way, its architecture will allow it to be lighter without being vulnerable, right? Because really straight bridges that are the longer bridges, they have to be much more weighty in order to, stand the test of nature. Like high streams, high winds. But if it's curved, and it can only be very short, it has a lot more rigidity because of the curve. And it doesn't have to have as much weight.
Exactly.
At all. I think if this is a baller claim, I remember it many years ago. I've put a picture in, Nathan, if you could share that. I think this is the Humber Bridge. And what I think they're talking about is the circumferential difference between the bottoms of the towers on the bridge and the tops of the towers. And because apparently that's on a curved surface, then the tops of the towers will be the circumferential difference further away from each other than the base of the towers. I think that's what the claim is.
But Adam, those towers seem vertical to me.
They do, and when I remember looking at it in the past, I think whoever's in Discord saying it is many years ago, but you go into it and you check the blueprints to see how it was built, and it's built flat it's built straight up, and they're plumb to each other, and the plans are built on a flat plane. When you investigate further, all you see is that some people have gone to it afterwards and done some calculations as to what theoretically the differential would be between the bottoms of the towers and the tops based on circumferential difference. That no one's ever demonstrated it. It's not within the blueprints, and I'd say it's only ever been calculated theoretically, as far as I'm aware.
Adam, if Nathan shows the second picture I put up there, and let me know when you do, Nathan. I want Adam's comment. Okay, so Adam, in this second picture, you see a bridge with an arc, but you see a level stream. and then you see the reflection of the bridge showing the arc on the level stream.
So
Well,
if we pretend that that bridge, the curve, is actually matching the curvature of the supposed ball Earth, then technically it's straight in their world. Yeah. So it's a massive exaggeration, but from that you can see, look, that the tops. If you go to the edge of the bridge and measure the top rail and measure the bottom rail, yeah, the floor will be shorter than the top rail length, even though they cover the same span, because it's got a larger circumferential difference. So that's what the claim is saying. That top rail is going to be longer than the base. I.e., in my picture, the top of the towers will be further apart than the bottoms of the towers, because they're going off at a slight angle away from each other.
okay, what about, Adam, the vertical posts from either end on an angle, and the one right over the top, it's vertical like a 90.
Which bridge am I supposed to be on?
The second one. The one with the reflection on the water. That.
Yeah, I'm on that
You're
one. It's
looking at
okay.
a curved bridge. So, you know, I'm trying to like put it in an analogy that's the curvature of the Earth. Yeah,
I know.
The water would be curved underneath it as well, wouldn't it, in their paradigm? But that's the claim I think they're making, that the top is longer than the bottom because of the circumferential difference.
But according to the citation or whatever, who read that? Who read that? Neil. Yeah. So Neil read something. Well, he's tying it into the curvature of the Earth. Well, here it is. Here we got a perfect example of a curved bridge that's supposed to match the water curving below, but the water ain't curving below.
Any more for any more? If not, I'm going to move on to axial rotation of the Earth-based variety, unless anybody objects.
Yeah, this is simple. We should have moved on a long time ago. It's nonsense.
Owen, go ahead.
Curve, you say?
Well, I think the bigger absurdity is building on a sphere. Cities on a sphere. Give me a break. That's the absurdity.
No, dude, it's possible to look behind corners. You can look behind physical obstruction, so that it just explains the black swan sightings, right?
Just say a quick hello to Brian before we move on to axial rotation. How you doing, Brian?
Hey Nathan, hey everyone. Congratulations, Aaron, on that thousand shows. Could I say something about this bridge thing before you move on, just quickly?
Yeah, of course you can. I'll just stick it back up. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
It's up. Go ahead.
Thank you. There's a couple of points I'd make about it. Number one, what's going on here is there could be actual drawings of the bridge, and what the people are doing is they are doing globe Earth mathematics as how much the pillars of the bridge would differ from the bottom to the top. Which is purely a calculation, because it would be so minute, even on the globe Earth. It would be so minute. It would be so minute to always put that in there with some bridges that it would be nearly impossible to do with concrete. You're not going to get it that. Now, maybe they can do it, I don't know. But what this is just, they're just taking globe calculations and going, those pillars would be meeting at the center of a globe Earth with a radius of 3959 miles. And they're doing calculations and saying, see, there you go. Right, it's within, and if I remember correctly, a man said 1.5%. Right, now that's the part that I would present, that I would focus on first, like 1.5%. So you're saying that the engineers were out, that they aren't matching the globe Earth. Then, you know, it's like because what's going on here is there could be an intentional curve put into the bridge, and they're adding their mathematical absolute nonsense to it. Because sometimes a bridge may be slightly curved for the reasons of expansion. So when it expands, just like when the chord line is less than the arc that resides over it, when it expands, right, what can happen is then it will straighten out as opposed to crack. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there could be reasons of a very small amount of curve put into a bridge purely for expansion and water runoff and different things like that. So these people don't ever think about that. But mostly what's going on is calculatory, where they're calculating how much the distance between the top of those pillars and the bottom of those pillars on a globe Earth, how much it would differ. You know, it's a diverging zeniths is basically what it is. Diverging plumbs. I always ask these people, right, how was it measured, right? And they can never come up with anything. Never. Not one answer have I gotten. Not from a surveyor, not from anyone. How was it? Because it's never measured. It's only added in. A calculation that's added in. If it's done by an engineer, it's done on purpose for the reasons probably of expansion and stuff. Not for...
The thing is, even if you managed to prove beyond all certitude that they were parallel, right, they would assert reciprocating zenith angles. In other words, they're presupposed to be bending even when they're parallel.
Exactly. It doesn't matter how parallel they are. They'll just add their mathematics in and assume that they're actually diverging.
That's what I'm saying. So even if they are perfectly parallel, then they'll say, well, yeah, they're perfectly parallel with the level ground that's bent. You know, this is, I keep saying this, but I hear these conversations, it makes me laugh because I'm not involved with them. It's always Bev. So big shout out to Bev Try Thinking, right? He's having these conversations all day long, back and forth with the fundamentalist anti-flat earth religious zealots that they think they are on a globe. And he's basically got their argument pegged because he's got the geometric principles as sound in his mind as you could possibly have them. So he just sits there calm as you like, telling them straight is straight, parallel is parallel. You know, they just insert their bendizontal, as he calls it, assumption and say, well, no. In this case, parallel is reciprocating zenith angles. You're just like, what? So even if I can prove beyond all doubt that they're parallel, you'll just say that they're actually presupposed to be pointing towards the centre of a presupposed curved straight line. Bendizontal. That's their next go-to as anti-flat earthers. So it's like, it's like, no matter what you show them, they can always wrap it around a ball, can't they?
Yeah, exactly. And what Bev would probably ask that guy, first and foremost, if he was on his show, what Bev would probably ask him was, what tools did he use to do that with then? And that's the end of it. That's the end of it. Because your man, what's he going to state? At auto level, that just does straight lines. You know what I mean? A Toyota Lite does angles. You know, what's he going to state? How's he going to do
Well, that's it. Exactly what happens. Because whenever he comes to describing some of these tools that they're using, all he does is ask them about the principle of the tool. You know, like auto level then. C level then. he just explains the principle.
We are forgetting a few things though.
Go on.
Well, if you're going to build a bridge, depending on the bridge, you will start with, if it's over water, you will start with the depth of the water first of all. Yeah, and how much altitude you want from the level of the water up, from either side or even the center of it. Because if there's boats passing underneath the bridge, you need to take in consideration how much height it's allowed to have under those bridges and so on. So all of this is taken in consideration when the surveyors come in and they survey the land. And this is where everything is estimated before put it down in the paper. So let's say the rule is whatever height, and then everything it starts from those measurements. They have to survey the land, and they survey it flat, based on the level of the water.
Yeah, we get that. But at that point, an anti-flat earther will tell Bev Try Thinking that flat measurement is actually curved. That's literally what he's confronted with.
But we are forgetting about the elevation profiles, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, and if you say to somebody, here you go, here's Google Earth, it's flat as a pancake, you can measure it as far and wide as you like, show an elevation profile, there is no drop. And they'll go, well, when it was measured when wrapped around a sphere, and all of those straight lines are actually bending around a presupposed spherical Earth. Look at the CGI image that's above it. Obviously, it's curved. You can literally draw out a line that shows a completely flat elevation profile, but because on the model above, the CGI model, it shows it curving, they go, there you go. That's all they need. They just need a CGI model to show a bent line straight. Or a straight line bent, I should say.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're going to have to beg
horizontal,
the question. Yeah.
horizontal.
Sorry, go on, Brian.
Yeah, just to George. You know, George is making good. It's George, isn't it? George is making good points. Yeah, making good points. Like it's just logical points. I'm not sure if George works in engineering or that, but it doesn't matter. But yeah, it's like, how did they measure? That's the first thing I asked. How did they measure this supposed diverging plumbs? You know, they can't. They can never claim a measurement because if they use the plumb, then it's just straight down, right? So if I have two plumbs and they're 200 meters apart, two plumb lines 200 meters apart, and I build off of those two plumb lines, then I'm building off of the straight down of the plumb. So they have to then claim that straight down is going to the center of a globe, and then they just calculate it that it does. You know what I'm saying afterwards? But they're not after proving that the plumbs are diverging. They're only like it's back to well they have to be diverging because we're on a globe. It's back to that mentality. You know, well they are diverging because we're on a globe. So it's like straight away go past the fact that they're just showing straight down and there's no evidence that they're diverging from the tops to the bottoms. Forget all that. Just we're on a globe, so they have to be diverging. And we know by matching them to the radius of the globe, right? The one they don't have a measurement for. So we know by matching it to the calculatory radius of our globe that they will diverge. And then they'll give you the amount they are actually after diverging by. Do you know what I mean? They then end it by telling you and giving you a calculation for how much, and call it a measurement of how much these two plumbs actually diverged by. It's like, that is how crazy they are.
Did the guy in the comments say he was 1.5% off or something of the radius? Is that what he said?
I think so.
Yes, chocolate.
If you work in the field,
the radius is correct.
If you work in the field,
go ahead. Go ahead, man.
Sorry, man. If you work in the field and you use these tools, you know that plumb lines, they run parallel. That's how we do framing. I mean, that's how you draw a square on a piece of paper. You draw an horizontal line, which are an horizontal line or a level line. It has a specific vector, let's call it like that. And then you have the vertical lines, the 90-degree lines. They run parallel. That's how we do framing on doors or on anything. In large scale or lower scale, it doesn't make a difference. The tools are still the same. We use water levels for long distances to make sure it's level. And the water level, bigger it is, more accurate it is, rather than do small measurements and then put them all together. It's preferable. It's more accurate if you use larger ones.
Okay. Okay. You mentioned a water level, and I've literally watched this argument progress again for Bev Try Thinking. So you describe how a water level works. You've got all the little pipes coming up, like imagine 2 or 3. Typically, a helicopter's going right over me now. Bear with me. There we go. So you've got all the U-bends with all the water in, and you can see them all lined up perfectly level. But if you look down the length of it, you can see they're clearly dropping away from you. And that's because it's actually curving around Earth with gravity. That's what I've heard Bev had to deal with when detailing a very specific tool that you've just detailed. So how would you cope with that when someone tells you that if you look down the length of it, you can see it dropping away visually?
Yeah, visually, I could agree probably with you, but that's not how we do. The way we do is actually with a physical line. So you use a water level, and both ends, we know that those both ends of the tube that you are using, of the water level, the surface of the water, once the water is at rest, will be at the same level. So you'll mark on the wall on both sides. And you'll move the water level again, you'll mark it again. So once that you have several measurements, just a pencil mark on the wall, then you bring an actual physical line, a long line that is stretched throughout, and it's double checked the line to match the marks of the level. That's how we operate. So if it doesn't match, it's because the reading wasn't made properly. So we need to come back and redo it until the straight line matches all the dots, if you know what I'm saying.
Okay, I heard all of it, and I'm now going to respond with what I heard responded to Bev. So all of those marks that you've described are all pointing towards the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. What you're marking out as level is curving around Earth.
Not correct, because every single of those marks, you'll have a 90-degree angles. Let's say that I'm doing those marks for the purpose of building pillars. And guess what? They need to be plumbed. So those marks, let's say every 200 meters, you have a pillar at that mark, at that altitude. Again, you'll have a straight line, not only the level line, but then the actual physical line that marked throughout. And then you have all the vertical plumb lines throughout.
Locally, you might get 90 degrees. As a globe anti-flat earther, I should say, I'm going to say each of those points you might be able to mark out 90 degrees, but they're all reciprocating zenith angles pointing towards the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, and that's what gives you your marked out as level, because they're curving around Earth. I already said that. Let me just add an ad hom, just for good measure. You don't understand.
Yeah, you wouldn't stay on set for long.
Hold on. You're going to refute what I've just said. Let's see how you deal with it. I'm just recreating what Bev deals with daily.
Yeah, I understand that. It's nonsensical. It's comical. I'm speechless.
Well, that's not going to convince the audience, so I win.
Straight lines and 90-degree angles, you know, on a tangent line as big as you can get.
Yeah,
Wanted to have all of those.
Hold on. Don't just repeat it, right? I'm giving you back what they give us, right? Yeah, and each of those markers that you've described, I'm going to say, yeah, each of them will give you 90 degrees. That's fine, locally.
You want my answer to that?
Well, I'm just begging the question that it's still wrapping around a sphere. And
yeah, you're going to need an hour for that, for your begging the question that there is a vertical drop and they're all pointing to the center of mass.
Right, look, it's not often I get to play baller. Can you not kill me this quickly, please?
If you go too much
that's the only thing they have is begging the question
throughout.
Hold on, Chocolate. Let him have his moment. He's ended my fun sooner than I had hoped. Did you want to repeat it? You've already hacked my head off with this, right? I'm going to need R. Yeah, I am. to presuppose reciprocating zenith angles.
Sorry, Nathan.
I was just going to say, if you go too much further.
Guys, just want George to respond, please.
You do.
This is your argument, George. You've won.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, it's the begging the question. You need R in order to prove your vertical drop, the center of mass where all of these plumb lines will be pointing at. You need R for that. You don't have one. The black swan doesn't show any vertical drop. Let's call it like that.
Go ahead, Chocolate. Sorry to cut you off. Thank you, George.
You're dead, Nathan.
No, I was just going to say, if it keeps going at that point, you'll get to the state where the glober will just say, well, the definitions of words are freaking meaningless. So there you go.
Here we go. Carrying on through housekeeping. Is it
What would you say? I didn't understand those words.
Yeah, because they're meaningless.
What's meaningless?
The Ruhif quote.
What Nathan was talking about there with the that is where optical drop comes in. That's why I've been detailing optical drop.
Okay, stop.
For years.
Stop. Brian's Logic, subscribe today. He released a really good video doing exactly what I discussed in the pre-show, keeping it nice and concise and just explaining what he means in terms of optical drop. Hashtag shit shrinks. Yeah, as stuff moves further away from you, it's going to get closer and closer to the horizon, i.e. drop in your field of view towards the horizon. Yes, indeed, Brian. Sorry, I just want to preempt what you're going to say by saying Brian's literally just released a video about this about 10 hours ago. Go to Brian's Logic's channel, check out his video, subscribe today. Your floor's all yours, Brian. Go ahead.
Thank you, Nathan. Thanks for the shout out. I've released several videos on it, and I'm just finding better ways to explain it because it's starting to be understood a bit more now. Basically, if you have all those levels across a horizontal plane, all those water levels across a horizontal plane, it doesn't matter if they are the actual true level, right? When you were looking across the top of those water levels, then your eye line is making a parallel with the ground underneath it. So as angular size change happens to each one of those vials of water or whatever, each one of those vats of water, then what's going to happen is they're going to get smaller in size as they move away. But the ground is not going to rise up. It's going to be more that the tops of them will come down. So in your view, from your perspective, it will seem like you're looking over you're looking like a foot over the top of the one at the end when your eye line is just on the top of the one at the start. It's like with a building, it's like a 20-story building. From a mile away, it looks like you're looking at its 4th or 5th floor. When it's 2 miles away, you're looking at its 8th or 9th floor. You know, that's how it appears to you because it's after changing in angular size. The ground is not going to rise up and the sea is not rising up. It's that things are dropping down towards it. That's what happens. Because you have a parallel, an optical parallel. You're making an optical horizontal, right, with you're paralleling a horizontal surface underneath you, which is the ground or water. And when things move away or you move away from them, they get smaller due to angular. They change in their angular size. They don't actually get smaller, obviously. They just change in their angular size, and you could be looking at the door of a skyscraper, the front door of it, and then 10 miles away, you're looking halfway up it, or more. Maybe you're looking at the top of it from 10 miles away, because it's changed in its angular size. But it's not gone down below anything. The ground has not risen up, and it has not curved down. It's that angular size causes things to drop down in your view. That's all it is. You know, it's just an effect. I've shown this, I've demonstrated it, I've explained it. It's like your eye line, right, is making a parallel with the surface underneath. It will never meet the surface underneath. It can't. But it will appear to, and the reason it'll appear to is because that free space or that area between your eye line and the surface, that, let's say if your eye line is 5'8", 5'9", then that 5'8" and 5'9" distance from your eyes to the ground, as you move away from something, that little space will get smaller and smaller and smaller. And then eventually it'll become the diffraction limit because you won't be able to decipher what you're looking at from the ground. So it's just purely that things shrink down into the ground. That's all that happens. The angular size, the space that is between your eye line and the ground underneath you just gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. If you understand, that's why you end up thinking you're looking at the 4th or 5th floor of a building. Well, you're not. It's just that where your eye line is really is way down at the base. But that area is so small you can't decipher it. You understand what I mean?
Absolutely. You did a really good job in the video. The video is called True Perspective. And as I say, it's on Brian's Logic's channel. And I've put the link to Brian's Logic's video in the live stream chat right now. So check it out. Obviously come back. But do it now while we're live. Click on that link. Go and check out his channel. Hit the subscribe button. Give him a like. Now, indicative of the reaction, you've got 30 thumbs down, 22 thumbs up. That is indicative of people not liking the clear, concise explanation that you've given. I saw a similar explanation given once by Beyond the Imaginary Curve when he was explaining a similar principle in terms of where you get the center of where you point in the camera, basically. You know, you went through it, but you didn't dumb it down in any way. You just explained it as it was. But I remember back in the day, maybe 2 or 3, maybe even more years ago, Dell having to explain this to people, like where you've drawn your X, that's where the camera's pointing. Now, in terms of your height, it wouldn't matter if you were on your knees above somebody 6 foot. You know, you're going to be pointing your camera up towards them, but as they walk out towards the horizon, you're going to have to lower the camera as they get smaller, right? I mean, this stuff is so obvious, but you have to lay it out for people who have a Muppet vision mind, and that's anti-flat earthers. You know, they think in an orthographic way whilst looking at images like this. But there we go. So subscribe today. The link's scrolling by. Check it out. Come back afterwards. Throw him a like.
Yeah, I first started detailing this way back in 2016 because I saw it come up with Jesse Kozlowski in 2016. And I knew, like, it was obvious to me before that when I found it, yeah, the earth is flat. Yeah, this makes sense. And I knew it before that, but no baller had called it earth curve at that point. But then suddenly Jesse Kozlowski came out with his view across these small little lakes claiming earth curve was causing drop. Right, and I started with arguing with him, detailing it with him. Of course, he didn't want to hear about it, but at the time, and it took 4 days with him, 4 days for him to admit that he did not take angular size change into account whatsoever in his calculations. Right, 4 days after.
Well, of course.
40 comments.
The most important point took 4 days to concede, so the concession was so far away from the original point that it didn't really matter once he conceded it, right? This was something that Anthony Riley pointed out to me just as the debate was kicking in fully. And he said, look, all they do is take the argument, they might address it eventually, but they address it when it's no longer connected to the original point being made. And then it has low impact, right? Well, that's what they need, is the concession to have very little impact, if any, or even be understood why it's being made.
Exactly, and one of the things that they do, and he did this at the time, was he kept starting new threads. Like he'd have one thread that could be 40, 50, 150 messages long, and then there'd be a new thread starting with 20 messages, and then another one with 40 messages, 40 comments. You know, so nobody can follow along. So when he did admit that he didn't put in the angular size change, it wasn't on the start of a thread. It was way down after several threads and loads of links. So no one was ever going to get to it. But it took 4 days for him to admit it. 4 days. And when he did exactly as what you said, that's exactly what he did. He made it as obscure as possible. You know. But just on the optical drop thing, because this is not about him, he's a fool. Just on the optical drop thing, if anyone thinks optical drop is not real, then they are denying the horizon dip correction for sextants. Because that's why they do it. Because their eye line is not at the same height as the horizon. Their eye line is making a parallel with the horizon. But that parallel line, to get that angle correct, they have to bring they have to bring their eye line to the surface of the water under the boat. So anyone that says optical drop is nonsense, Brian's logic is only making it up, blah, 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 then you're denying horizon dip correction for sextants. Thanks, Nathan. Thanks for that.
Anytime.
Nave, when we get a sec, can I, you know, when you get a bit of maths, I can't help myself, can I? So Neil, if I could address Neil's bridge thing, in terms of what Brian was talking about, the Humber Bridge as well. I've done the maths to show you the difference. I said it's based on circumferential difference between going around on a ball at the bottom of the bridge and the top of the bridge. And if you work out the radius of the Earth, you've got 6371 and 6371.152, which is the height, 152 meters. The bridge stands high. So that's your new radius value. So then with different circumferences, and it is minute because the two differences are 40,000 and 30.1735 kilometers and 40,000 and 31.128 kilometers, which gives you a difference of 0.955 kilometers. That's a difference all the way around the supposed ball Earth. That's the difference in the two circumferences. So what you will do is then calculate the difference in just that very small part of the circumferences. So a little bit of maths and working out the percentage ratios brings it out as the bottom of the bridge being, as stated, 1.41 kilometers long, And the top of the bridge is 1.4100324.564 kilometers. Differentiated, that comes out to be 0.000324564 kilometers, or 0.0324564 meters, or put in understandable terms, the difference between the pillars at the bottom of the bridge and the pillars at the top on a supposed ball earth would be 3.25 centimeters.
Wow. So the expansion, I've forgotten what they call them. They're like big, massive bits of metal that sort of interlace with each other that allow the bridge to expand and contract. Easily account for that.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you for doing the maths. Much obliged, Adam. I'm just going to do a quick shout out to a few people though. So shout out to Al Junkie first and foremost, who says Globers that miss R need to be bridge slapped. Oh, yeah, I get it. Very good. Thank you very much for the super chat, Al Junkie. Also, shout out to Retro Bill. It says great shows lately. Thank you, Nathan and panel. Yeah, the lack of baller opposition means the shows get to have a very high education value, in my humble opinion. We get to discuss things that are nice and calm and concise, to the point where I can, interject 10th man's already concise presentations and say, hang on, let's focus on this a little bit more. It's brilliant. So I heard on a competitor's show a few ballers saying that they were boycotting the show. It's like, oh, really? Oh, that's wonderful. That's so nice that we can actually get down to the nitty gritty of it. Because a debate doesn't actually need the person who's putting forth the argument for the opponent's side to believe in that particular position, so long as that position's being put forward. Now, obviously, we would feel that we can concisely summarise your positions possibly better than you can. We can do it without the fundy interruption and the muting. We can do it without all of that crap quite easily. So the person who's watching still gets to hear both sides of the argument put across in order for us to pull it apart. And we're adept at playing devil's advocate. So it's more joyous to me for, if you anti-flat earthers don't want to join, I couldn't be more pleased. Because then all we get is the occasional globe believer join that doesn't know any better. That just goes, well, I mean, they're all very calm and they all seem very nice, but they think the earth's flat. So, I haven't heard my argument about gravity pulled apart in this particular show, so I'm going to jump on and tell them what's what. Don't they know we've got gravity? And they come in and have their ass handed to them. And that's the globe believers that will actually make their way in when it's nice and calm and cool and collected and educational. The anti-flat earthers just come in and cause chaos. So if you think that boycotting the show is going to make things better for your side, au contraire, the only thing you actually had going for you was the fact that you could obfuscate, fundy mute, cause a lot of disruption, make me look bad, and she got me more and more frustrated. But, other than that, not really achieving much, and I'm very pleased about that. So, happy days all round. Thank you very much for the Retro Bill super chat, by the way. That's what sparked off that little rant.
Are we back in 2016 with the boycotts now? That's where they've gone to? That's where they're at?
Certainly seems to be the case, yeah.
Oh, poor guys. That's a terrible shame after a whole year of losing out on your geometric horizon. Now you're getting destroyed with the sextant. Now you have to call a boycott when shit gets rough, huh? That's what you guys do? It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Exactly, Chuck. Sorry, Nathan.
No, I was just agreeing with you. Go ahead, Brian.
Just saying, when things were rough for us back when we were facing the whole world back in 2015, we didn't give up. But
they came back here every day. Yeah. Here we are, still here every day. What's wrong with you guys? Yeah. Oh, boycott. Did that work out 4 years ago? Did that work out for you guys? I get it though. It's a lot worse now because back then you were presupposing R all over the place, shitting on the floor with that, right? And we were allowing you to. We were all in your Narnia, begging the question with you. Now that we don't let you guys do it, now it's a problem, right? You have no geometric horizon. Asking you for R, you got no R. That's a damn shame.
No, not to argue about. Sorry.
No, you're good, man.
Here's the bottom line though, right, Chocolate? Without R, their arguments have all got no foundations. They can't make any of their arguments without the R value. It relies upon them presupposing a spherical surface, either verbally, like Matthew Capucci, well, the Earth's a sphere, period, or by way of the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculations when they assert drop and hidden values. Like, yeah, you're going to need R for that. You're going to need to be hidden by a physical geometric sphere edge obstruction that's been debunked by the Black Swan. So you can't derive R. Al-Biruni's measurements weren't measuring a physical horizon by your own admission. It's now refracted, paradoxically leaving you with no R value. Well, that's unfortunate, but that's why we get to talk about things in the way we do now. Pull apart triangulation on a flat plane and explain how it debunks the globe and proves flat Earth simultaneously.
I just want to say I really like having Adam Meakin around, because when anyone throws any mathematical nonsense, or anyone comes in with mathematical nonsense, they better have their P's and Q's correct, because Adam, and QB too, I have to say, he's very, very good at maths, but Adam just is on it like a Rottweiler.
Well, Adam was cast out from Iron Realm Media, so we got Adam with an itch that needed scratching, and I think he scratches it here. Although I hope I haven't offended him by saying that.
No. That's a nice analogy. It is. Like I say, as soon as I heard it, I jumped on it. Only because it just shows the nonsense. Because they come in as if this stuff is some validation. So, in the old days, that's why I knew that one. I'd done it before when it came out 3 centimeters. I remember doing the calculation before. But it was the stuff that in the early days, when there was only me, you're looking at these things and these claims, and you go and investigate, and there's only you to prove it. But it is what they use now to flim-flam, isn't it? That what Neil was given with a load of formulas, a load of washall. And as if, look, when you look at that, as if that could show you anything. I mean, the difference is, what is it between the two? The difference between the two is 1.4, so it's... What?
Adam's doing maths, I can hear the cogs turning.
It's less than 0.01 of a degree differential between off-plumb between the one tower and the other, even if it was. So even then, it's, you wouldn't be able to demonstrate your ball. You're not doing anything again. You're not proving R. You're not showing anything. And in a way, you already have to have R to calculate your tower difference. So you'd need R for that in the first place, wouldn't you?
But even in the guy's statement, didn't he say it shows it's off of R? So what are we talking about again? The effective radius? Can't even talk about your real radius? Back to that crap again.
You'd have put in an adjustment for something you've never measured and can't prove, but you'd be building your bridge off. That's the reality. I mean, that's what the guy in Discord was saying. That it's not there. I remember looking, it's not there in the plans. It's not there in the blueprints. So they can come with all of this stuff, but it is just a theoretical claim. And then if you bother to do the theoretical claim, you see the ludicrousness of what they're saying. It's not even something they can demonstrate. A windy day, you'd make those two towers have a bigger variance than that,
Chocolate.
Yeah.
You got to embrace the fiction in your science.
Adam's last point, right? He's right. A bit of wind would probably give you 3 centimeters or something.
The towers will have much bigger tolerance in them than that, won't they, for stress and strains and width. I mean, the big things over the Humber Bridge. So you're going to get that movement. There'll be more, like you said, the rumble strips. There'll be more tolerance than 3.5 centimeters in the gaps in between the road that they lay down that sits. Do you know what I mean? In its plinth. So to try and then claim that those measurements in somehow demonstrate Earth curvature is just farcical.
The concrete that goes into it, all those little tiny grains of stone and sand, they're not all the exact same size either, right? So you're going to have little times where there's going to be air pushing out between them and all this kind of stuff. they're not going to be exactly the same. They're all crushed up, but they're all different little sizes. So that alone, just the concrete alone, could give you a variance. Just that alone could give you a variance. If you look at how concrete is put up, how they do these things, it might be smooth. They might do it all smooth. But if you look at how they do it, it'd be very, very easy, especially over a big bridge like that. Very, very easy for that little tolerance. Very easy to happen. And if you add in wind and stuff with that, you know what I mean, and all that, and earth movements, and movements with the water as well. You have to understand the water is flowing through it and around it as well underneath. So with all those things, that'll be like you couldn't but not expect differences from time to time. And I would predict that if there was a difference, that was, I don't know how they measured it. That's when I come back to there's no show me how you measure this. How did you measure this?
Well, I was about to come to that, Brian. So maybe we could find some neutral ground that both globe believers and flat earthers would agree upon. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that geodetic surveyors were the ones that built this bridge. And they did so by first mapping out a tangent plane. That would be a flat surface to work upon, correct, Brian?
Great, Nathan, yes.
So the surveying situation, regardless of if you assume a spherical surface and then just actually work on a flat surface, that would be your tangent plane. The tangent bit being your spherical assumption, the plane bit being the bit you're actually having to deal with. Any surveyor's going to be dealing with a flat plane when they build something like this, right? Without exception.
Yeah, actually, that's a very good point, Nathan, because everything that's surveyed there has all been surveyed with the pre-assumption that they're using a horizontal plane. That's a good point, Nathan.
They will assume the water is level throughout. Because water is level. That's the only assumption they're going to do. And they're going to measure from the water level up on both sides of it. And whatever structure they're going to put in the middle, it will be measured from the water level up.
But they're literally, with the tangent plane, they're literally going to pre-assume that the water is horizontal and level, not just level to their globe. It's horizontal. And any surveyor won't even think about that, will they, George? Surveyors will just deal with it as if it's horizontal. They're not going to be thinking about the curve of the earth. This stuff about the surveyors are always thinking about the curve of the earth. They don't. That's calculations that are put in afterwards. They don't. They just survey.
Agree. The tangent line in this case would be the surface of the water.
Yeah,
and then from that will be your starting point.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they'll treat the earth that they're working on as a horizontal plane, right? They can call it locally horizontal if they want to get technical about it. I don't care what they call it. If they're treating it as horizontal and they're treating all the building they're doing off of the surface of that water as all being level with that water and the water being a horizontal plane, then it's all being built on a horizontal plane. Now, they can make up any fantasy they want after that and say there's different local horizontals because they're crazy like that. But they have to build on horizontal. Yeah, it's crazy chocolate, isn't it?
I had to do the numbers again, Bri. If they built it, they'd build it plumb, wouldn't they? They'd build it each one locally level, and then they'd go back and calculate and then make the claim. And the claim they'd make is it's 0.0123 degrees. The second tower would be away from the first tower's plumb if it was off. Now, how they would demonstrate something 1.4 kilometers away being at a slight angular off plumb of 0.0123 degrees, I don't know. And I was going to say they just made up numbers that basically tell you it's straight, but in some calculation and non-verifiable in reality, they can make a mathematical claim, and that's all it is.
Exactly, Adam. I mean, they can take any two plumb bobs, and plumb bobs are only going to point straight down. And all they can do then, because they can't show you a differential in those plumbs, all they can do, they have to be treated as verticals. So all they can do then is later add their globe in mathematically later on and make a claim about. And as I said earlier, they'll later on add in their globe mathematically, and then they'll turn up and tell someone that they have measured diversion of the plums. It's like that's the cheeky bit. It's like, hang on a minute now. You didn't measure anything. You pre-assumed the globe, right? You then took these parallel plums, and you pre-assumed that the plums were going to the center of your globe, and you then made calculations about that, and then you've turned around and told someone that you have measured divergence of the plums. That's a complete lie. You made it up yourself.
That's spot on. Good summary there, Brian. I'm just going to shout out Retro Bill, who says Wikipedia's attempt to discredit flat Earth as an, quote, archaic conception of Earth's shape is a simple appeal to novelty fallacy. That's a new one on me, Retro Bill. Appeal to novelty fallacy. I don't know if anybody else is familiar with that particular fallacy, but thank you very much indeed for the super chat. With that, I'm going to say, though, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you. Smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the PayPal link, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Yeah, that's the being Ossenfelder, is it? Ossenfelder?
Yeah.
Glasses through globe.
Okay, that's up there with the nonsense of Dr. Michelle Fowler. Like they're in the same, I don't know.
Same vein.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a new useless straw man.
Maybe
for you,
she's
by
the
way.
other rock that she saw on the mountainside and said, you know, those are your cousins too. Maybe that's her cousin. Being in Michelle Fowler. Ridiculous. Anyway, go.
Yeah, we have no R is a straw man. The globe doesn't need an R. We can just use the diameter.
That's the problem. So 2 R's then.
No, it's a D.
Same difference.
But yeah, it's pretty much R times 2. R2D2. And the D2 would have to be TOO. R2D2.
Do we have to start talking about a stupid movie for a Glober to show up in here?
Star Wars isn't stupid.
Well, I mean, I just mean a movie that's not on topic at all, or could be, but it's just a movie or something. Unless any Globers in here want to just come out and just tell us, you know, where their R is, that'd be cool. We could wrap this all up.
They seem to be very good at claiming we make stuff up. Like, they'll say that you or Adam or Kiwi or anyone else made up whatever it is you're talking about. You just made these things up. You know, Kiwi made up the scientific method. You know, it's like you just made.
Nathan made up begging the question.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But they don't last very long, though. You know, the ones that do last are the format fallacies. Like, oh, no, this is just not as. I don't feel safe on this platform. I have to have a neutral platform. Why are you yelling at me for not answering your question, Nathan, for 50 times in a row? Why are you yelling at me? Why don't you come with me on another platform? That's their favorite now.
Yeah, appeal to format. That's what Nathan calls it, isn't it?
Or you guys are creepy because you make tumbleweed sounds when you ask me questions and I don't answer it. Hey, you guys are so creepy. Like,
It is creepy. It is creepy when you have literally all the room, the verbal room in the world, and you don't have an answer. Yeah, that's creepy. It's not us being creepy.
what?
That's
Because
you being creepy for literally
I-
leaving a silent pause.
Because I asked a loaded question. We're quoted as a loaded question. Is an open container a container? That was loaded.
Loaded with facts.
It was under pressure.
Oh my god. Go ahead, man. Say it again.
The question was under pressure. It was loaded.
It was under pressure.
Was locked and loaded and ready to go.
I mean, he could have just said no. An open container is not a container. Then we could have continued from there. Why do we have to get called creepy and all this other shit?
Containers don't require walls.
just either say a container is a container, or say a container is not a container. I don't understand. Why do you have to do the in-between crap and the tactics? That just makes you look even dumber than you already do for not wanting to answer the question in the first place. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with people like
There's
that?
many Don Petites out there.
Oh man, like one wasn't enough. Jeez.
Yeah, but nobody can say zodiacal lights like he can.
The zodiacal light.
Where the heck is Nathan? Did he run away?
Me?
Just going to get a coffee or tea or something, man.
Yeah, I just refreshed my drink, that was all.
See?
I was just going to say, who needs him?
Thanks, Neil.
See, Nate, I wanted to say, but I was busy. But when Adam crunches the numbers, not like Matthew Capucci.
And that's when the anti-flat earthers get extra loud and agitated. This always stands out to me when Adam goes like on Brandon's or something and he starts to roll out some real facts. That's when like the anti-flat earthers get unusually rowdy. Have you ever noticed that? Like they get really agitated.
Rumpus blows his lid. Yeah, Rumpus blows his top when Adam's around because Adam hammers him every time.
That's true. He does. I think he likes Adam less than he likes me. He just aggravates him. It's great.
Yeah, because Adam. Go on, Adam.
I think it's probably just because Adam doesn't have a shtick like Nathan does where he really starts mauling, right? Adam kind of like always stays calm. So that's extra threatening, I think.
Adam also has a PhD, and that caused Rumpus huge problems. Because Adam's called Rumpus out on his calling people out. Rumpus stopped calling people out on their education when Adam started calling him out on his. And suddenly Rumpus started shutting up. I remember Adam called him out one day on, I think it was on this show, and Rumpus lost it and called him everything under the sun, started attacking where Adam went to university and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but,
I remember that.
He shut up after that.
So you're saying Adam schooled him?
It means that there's a certain level that Rumpus likes to appeal to. And he was bested by Adam in that regard. So while someone like Quantum Eraser makes it clear to, mainly for the audience's benefit, that isn't something that you should necessarily be leaning on, and we're only discussing it because of the particular character involved in this respect. And I'm sure Adam's cringing because he's a very modest man, but Adam's still skillful at playing the game and can deal that card if he has to, and he did on that occasion. Now, I'm saying this so that people don't think, oh, we're just appealing to Adam's PhD. Well, have we ever done that in the past? No. It came up because that's what our opponents do, and in this instant, Adam had a better, higher card and laid it on the table and went, shut up. And that was the end of that.
Yeah, Adam wasn't boasting around. He just was putting Rumpus back in his place. You know? So what do you have, Rumpus? What do you have? Rumpus had a degree, right? And Adam actually has photographs of him at university with the guys he was in university with, in the dorms. Where is Rumpus's photographs of when he did something? If he wants to latch onto education, where are they? Nowhere, because he hides himself. Say when he went to university, he hates university with.
He probably got his degree through mail order college.
Not relevant. It's just, regardless, it shouldn't be considered. How good is his argument? How well can he pull it apart should be the only consideration. Now, for Rumpus, he will take appeal to consensus. He'll use all the fallacies under the sun. Now, sometimes that doesn't work out in this case, right? But I want to empower the audience who are going out there and they're actually debating. I know it's a very small percentage, but sometimes we're playing it down and saying, you've got to take ownership of your argument and you can't blame your sources and citations and all the rest of that. Well, this is the other way around. It's like Neil or myself with very limited educational backgrounds can equally argue as well as Adam can without having a PhD to back what we say, because it's down to the argument that you're making. Now, I'm not saying that to demean Adam or, in any way give false hope to people who haven't got a skill in debating. But by the same token, you do need to understand your own arguments, because that's what's going to win you the argument, not having a certificate behind you. Now, take that to the extreme, and you've got someone like QE who's like, yeah, roll on the PhDs. I like embarrassing them. So, just be careful, because the people who do appeal to their PhDs often do get embarrassed when someone's got a better argument, especially if they're less educated, because they want to appeal to their high status through education. So when someone who's lower status than them humiliates them, they're going to take that very badly, aren't they?
Right. But I do have a point with the mail order college, though, because, look, if you are already a specialist because of you love that field and you've already studied up in your own time, and then you quickly need a paper to kind of get a job, okay, then you already got the expertise. But if you're like, oh, I want to get the paper, so I'm going to do mail order college, you're not as inclined to basically be facing people that are really good in that field, right? You'll know what you need to know, but you're not going to have the training of going actually to the university.
Right.
And that's the difference.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to get the papers, get the papers.
But it's not about the papers, it's about the training, really.
Do you agree?
I caught that. Sorry, Nathan?
No, nothing. I was checking if my joke landed, and I won't.
It did.
It did with me. Get the papers.
What?
Don't worry, Howard, don't worry.
Johnny 2 times, isn't it, or something?
Yeah.
Jimmy 2 times.
Yeah.
Jimmy 2 times.
Sorry,
Nathan
Jimmy
was
two.
ace yesterday. I'm going to start the show. No, what did you say? I'm going to start the housekeeping.
It's because of the Italian weatherman. That's why all these Goodfellas and Godfather references are coming up.
Matthew Capucci. Oh, that devastated me. You made me find the guy's name, and it has to be an Italian guy with such nonsense.
It's not his fault. It's Italian. I'm with him with his struggles. I'm 14% Italian. Got a Ramma Jamma Ding Dong Discord server. It's full to the brim.
I was just going to say, do we have anyone in the Discord like to discuss any of these topics, or are they just chatting away? Because I'm not looking at it.
You say,
Any ballers?
They're probably just waiting until the after show is over so they can finally start up their own discussions.
I want to know the rest, or like what the rest of my day is gonna look like. So I need to know: is it a drift day, or is it a lockstep, no drift day? What kind of day is it today, Globers?
I'm thinking it's Ad Masto Day. For some reason, I think Ad Masto might be looking to come back in.
Why?
Yeah, a certain time goes by and then they pop into, I don't know why, because they actually look dumber and dumber every time they come on.
Maybe. I mean,
We have a Kumo virus here, though.
I was going to say, I was going to reference Kumo virus. They just end up lying.
Everybody but a Kumo virus, because I could see it's still your little pet. Jeez, Nathan.
Okay, if you say so.
I did really get to Akumu virus yesterday, though.
So you're just carrying around his pet's head all over the place? I don't understand. How's he use pet?
If you listen carefully, you'll see how Nathan treats him like his little pet. Even though he cuts his head off.
The virus gets to virus. We don't need to work that hard.
No, but he usually just spins around or just ignores it to ask his own stupid little question that has nothing to do with it directly. But yesterday when I explained about gases not having mass, how it being an extracted concept doesn't apply to gases, even though it has density, he basically said, like, yeah, that's... He didn't just immediately straw man away.
Right.
So I could feel it in his voice.
That's what I recognise too. Exactly. Hold on. That's exactly what I recognise. Exactly, Arwin. You know, and further to that, doesn't seem to give a crap about what's going on around him, where, you know, the other fundies are like, we will boycott. Virus seems to be his own dude. He doesn't seem to care. You know, and if you're piping up about him, he'll pipe up if necessary. As opposed to stay on mute or come in and fundy mute. He'll do it towards the end of his argument. It's just basic instinct kicking in that regard. But that you can forgive most of the time, or at least I can.
Yeah, but the Kumo virus conceded yesterday after the show, we conceded that gases, they don't have weight.
Yeah, virus is willing to have an argument.
Exactly.
No, I asked him, if I fart on the scale, how much does he weigh my fart? And he said nothing. So gases, they don't have weight, according to him.
Okay, I'm going to speak
So did he actually get it then? That's interesting.
Go ahead, Neil.
It took a
Hold on. Go ahead, Neil. Did you not all hear him?
I was just going to say, they've been boycotting your show since way before I even got in the panel. I've been hearing of the boycott of the Nathan Oakley show. It's not a boycott. They don't want to get hammered anymore.
Yeah.
I know. I said this. I was like, "Why are we back in 2016 or 2017 with the boycott?" Like that's old and busted, guys.
Wait a minute. I picked up on something. So you're saying that in the after show, when none of us were around and it was just Discord, that what took Nathan an hour or so with virus got answered with a fart in 2 seconds?
No.
That is correct.
Hold on, he's saying no. Hold on. Go on, Virus. Virus is saying no. Go ahead, Virus.
Correct. That's not correct. Don't let George lie to you. Of course. Yeah, don't let George lie to you.
I'm not the liar, my friend. You said...
Stop. Sorry, George. You just have to swallow that for a second. You have to explain why, Virus. You can't just hand wave and then wait for everyone to disagree with your statement about lies. How is he wrong?
Okay, basically he's just wrong because the situation he just described, I basically told him I would never do that, even with the claim that I have. I would never fart on a scale and expect it to weigh something. That's him lying.
Okay, but his point is, how do you weigh a gas? That's his point, right?
Now, his point was, how do you weigh a fart?
That's a gas.
Yeah, but still, that's specifically a fart. I would never fart on a scale and expect it to weigh something.
So rather than addressing his argument, you kind of weaselly segued away in terms of the physical example you were given, humorous though it is.
That's what he does.
Yeah,
But you could fart into a
yeah.
container and then measure it, then I'll weigh it. But you have to get it in a container first.
Well, I guess, like I told George, you would need a very, very, very sensitive scale for that, and I don't think we have one that can measure farts.
Okay, cool. No, hold on. Now we're getting somewhere. So we need a very sensitive scale to weigh gas. Okay, take me through the process. What would you do to weigh a gas on a scale? A sensitive one.
To weigh a gas, I would probably use a container to keep it pure and separate from other gases and stuff. But I don't know about a fart. I wouldn't weigh no
Why
farts,
would you need?
so,
Why would you need to do that?
to keep it pure.
So if you're saying if you don't have it in containment, the gas will disperse into the other gases because there's gaps, right?
Yeah, there's a chance that it won't be pure. Yeah.
Chance. A chance. Hold on. What do you mean a chance?
Yeah. Very high chance that it won't be pure.
High chance. It's a law of nature. It's called dispersion, an entropic effect. It making its way between the gaps of the other gases is a given. It's a law of nature. Dispersion.
Yeah,
Right.
pretty much.
So you understand that the gas will make its way into the gaps, right?
Yeah, it'll start to mix with the other gases. It will diffuse.
Right. It'll diffuse into it, right? Because there's gaps between the gases that it can make its way in between, right?
Yeah.
Space is claimed to be one massive gap. I say that again because there was this dumbfounded silence that followed it. Outer space, the sky vacuum, is claimed to be one massive gap between gases.
Yeah. Weird.
So the gas would disperse between the gaps of the other gases, and the sky vacuum, outer space, is just one massive gap.
Okay.
So, law of nature, gas disperses because of the gaps it can go between. And all your claim of the sky vacuum is an enormous gap, a massive space, a huge amount of volume that the gas can go into, i.e. disperse into entropy.
Yeah. Entropy, heat energy. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, so space is fake. Because if the sky was a vacuum, that's what the gas would do. And as you rightly point out, unless you've got something to contain it, to stop it filling the gaps.
no, not necessarily.
No, that's what you just said. I'll put it in a container because otherwise it'll disperse into the gases around it. Why? Well, because there's gaps. So the gas which expands in all directions, a high velocity, will just go between the gaps in the other gases and disperse into all the other gases around it. Likewise, you think that the sky is just another massive gap for the gas to fill. And the law of nature, the dispersion we're describing, that's an entropic effect. That's the second law of thermodynamics. The process of entropy debunks the space, the gap, being the sky that we experience. It's not just one massive gap for gas to fill, because gas would fill it. It doesn't, therefore the sky's not a vacuum.
Okay. Can I say something in terms of entropy? How does the globe give entropy to space?
I don't know, it's not my claim, you tell me.
Okay. Well, what happens when a gas expands?
When a gas expands, gases don't expand.
Yeah, what happens?
The effect of expansion into a volume is entropic. And all gases do by nature is just move at a high velocity in whatever vector they're travelling until they collide with something.
How do you think clouds form? I mean, what do you think happens when a gas expands? It cools down. That's what happens when a gas expands. It cools. And when a gas cools, entropy goes down. And in order for entropy to go down in a system, it must give its entropy to its surroundings.
Sorry, Nathan, expansion is not about...
And you need a container for that.
It's right about temperature.
George.
But He's kind of conflating something there with his expansion. Are you saying when it becomes less dense, there is less heat? Is that what you're saying? Less density of gas equals less heat. Is that what you're saying, Akenboris?
No, what I'm saying is how you cool a gas down is expanding it. And when you cool a gas down, entropy drops. The only way entropy could drop in a system is if it gives entropy to its surroundings.
Well, here, I want to get on this.
Hold on. He's got a hold on.
From
Hold on.
expanding?
Hold on. You think that's an hold on? You think that's an entropy decrease?
It's an entropy increase of its surroundings.
Hold on. Now you're saying it's an increase. Which one is it? You just said it was a decrease. Now you're saying it's an increase. Which is it?
Increase of the surroundings, decrease of the system.
No. Is that an entropy increase or an entropy decrease? You've said it's both so far. Which one is it?
Increase of the surroundings and a decrease of the system. If you understand entropy, that should make sense to you.
I'll ask again, third time. Is that an increase or a decrease in entropy?
System or the surroundings? Which one?
You've described gas expansion. Yeah? You've said that will result in a temperature change. I'm asking you, that process which you've just described, this is the fourth time I'm asking you, is that an entropy increase or an entropy decrease, Virus?
Okay, and this is the fourth time I'm telling you. This is a decrease of the system and an increase in the surroundings.
So when I ask if it's an increase or decrease in entropy, you're going to answer about whether it's the system or surroundings that increase or decrease. I'll ask for a fifth time. Specifically regarding entropy, is it an entropy increase or an entropy decrease, Virus?
Do you understand?
You don't know, do you? Shit for brains.
I just told you.
You don't fucking know, you stupid idiot.
It's a decrease in the system.
What about in entropy? You stupid idiot who doesn't know the answer.
Entropy.
Sorry, you don't know, do you? Stupid idiot.
That is.
He's not asking about the system. He's asking about entropy.
He doesn't know.
Okay, it doesn't make sense.
The answer is he doesn't know.
I just told you.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
So is it an increase or a decrease in entropy?
It is a decrease in entropy.
Wrong! What a wanker! Incorrect, shit for brains. You guessed and you guessed wrong.
I didn't guess.
Yeah, you guessed and you guessed wrong.
Oh.
No, that's not a decrease in entropy. You are stupid. Stupid shithead, you don't understand entropy. Shut up.
No, it's an increase, buddy.
Virus. Everyone else, shut up. Everyone else, be quiet. Virus, I'd like you to go on mute and understand that you're stupid and don't understand entropy. Okay, buddy? That's why you still think you've got a sky vacuum, because you don't understand this stuff. Now pop yourself on mute. You've just excluded yourself from this conversation. Let the adults who understand entropy continue talking, because you do not. Okay, lad? Sit yourself down. Pop yourself on mute. You're no longer part of this conversation because you're stupid. Clear? Good, lad.
Can I make a note?
Yeah, feel free.
I'd say something after our win. I might say something.
All right.
I'd like to get in on this.
You probably know even more about this, Brian, because you really focused on that. But what I noticed, or what I realized, is that, gases might go in all directions, and they will, by the way, if there's volume available for them. And they might even cool down. But does that make the gas stop expanding in the available volume just because it cools down?
Depends on the gas.
I don't think so.
Not necessarily. Depends. Depends on the gas. Might undergo a phase change as a result of that.
Right. It would have to go into a phase change. It would have to become not gas in order to achieve that. But
almost. There's another problem that occurs, though. So you've got to have them bond together. Well, how does that occur if they're expanding further and further apart from each other? They've got to encounter another one, right?
Exactly. So can they even become anything other than a gas when it's all split apart too far, right? Condensation requires the clotting together of the molecules.
You know what you'll need for that? You know what you need for that?
Containment?
Right, you need containing. Right, exactly, Arwin.
That's a good point. Actually, Howard.
Nathan, this is one of my favorite topics. Sorry.
Go on, Paul.
Can I just
hold on, Paul? Brian was waiting in the wings, and then Paul after Brian. Go ahead, Brian.
I'll leave Paul go first if he wants, and I'll make my points. The only point I'm going to make 2 points that Akenforth destroyed his own argument on.
Go ahead, Paul.
Basically, the increase in entropy is that the molecules or the energy within those molecules are wanting to find the most accessible microstates. That's what the increase in entropy is. When you have a free expansion of a gas, to reduce its temperature, you got to remove the kinetic energy. So if you got a gas expanding, how are you removing the kinetic energy? Because it has to be transferred to something else for it to lose it, either to another particle or to the wall of the container or something that takes that kinetic energy away from it. So I think that's where Akenforth started falling apart.
That's not quite true.
What?
That's not quite true. So in terms of the energy loss when you collide with another particle or the walls of a container, there's an elastic collision. There's no considered net loss of energy.
Well, there can be, because the heat will be transferred, like when it's collided. Yeah, the particle itself will fly off another direction, but some of that kinetic energy would be transferred to the walls of the container. That's why you have heat. So there is an element to that.
Sorry, heat transfer does require a connection, though. If there's no material to transfer the heat to, then it's not going to transfer.
No, but that's not what he's trying to. I think. Hold on. I think what you're trying to. I'm speaking for you, Paul. But if I'm just wrong, just say stop me in mid-flow. You're talking about Boyle's law, right? If you increase the amount of volume that the gas has got, right, it's going to expand out more and decrease in temperature.
Right. It is going to decrease in temperature, but because the kinetic energy is, in a sense, the energy is more spread out, so the temperature is going to reduce.
Right. So it's got by increasing the volume of the container, you're giving it more available microstates.
Right. And so there's more places for that energy to go. So the temperature reduces.
How many microstates do you reckon the claim of a sky vacuum would have, Paul?
More than I can count, possibly. More than anybody could count.
A few.
No, infinite. Infinite microstates, because it's supposed to be infinite volume.
No, there is a
wait a minute.
No, they do have a finite number that they ascribe to it, actually. That's wrong.
No, that's what they ascribe for calculations. Officially, it's not supposed to be a limited size, right?
Hold on a second, though.
That's not true either. They've claimed to be able to see to the beginnings of time. I'm not going to get into the rhetoric with speed of light distances and such, but when they're looking at the CMB, they're claiming to look at the beginning of time, and that means that they've got a finite amount. Now, the fact that they say it's expanding doesn't mean that they can't and haven't, and they have ascribed a number to that.
But if it can still further
constantly
expand,
increasing.
and there is
Hold on, Paul.
Increasing.
Just let me just square this with Arwin first. Sorry, Paul. Go on, Arwin.
So if it has a current calculated size right now, but it is still proclaimed to be expanding, and there is no limit to the amount of expanding because the available volume would be infinite, then effectively it is infinite. And that would make the microstate amount infinite.
No, that's still wrong. I'm sorry. We just don't want to go around in this a second time. Paul, go ahead.
All right.
I have to get back to the mute button, sorry. All I was going to say is even in both systems, whether the flat Earth system or the expanding universe system, it technically, if it is a closed system, but in one system, it is expanding constantly, which means the microstates are increasing. In a closed system, then that microstate system is not increasing. Of course, then you have to argue whether the system itself, the universe, or the flat Earth system is an isolated or a closed system, and then which no one can prove either way. So we're back to square one again, ultimately, though.
Could I say now?
Yes.
What I was going to say? Yeah, thank you. Good points made by Paul and everyone else. There's two things that Akenforth destroyed his own argument on. First of all, when he said that to weigh gas he's going to need a container. Now, that's not just for the obvious reason, right? Well, it is for the obvious reason, right? I am going to speak about the obvious reason, but there's something in there he's after forgetting. And he even stated to keep to keep it pure, what he's really talking about is to keep a concentration. So if you have a concentration of helium in a balloon, you have to keep it within the balloon. If you make a hole in that balloon, that helium is going to come out and it's going to disperse and it's going to mix in with all the other air, right? So if he wants to weigh a gas, he has to put it into weigh the container, then put the gas into the container, then weigh the container with the gas in it, right? That's how he has to do it. But what he's literally stating there, without realizing it, is that he's stating that gas does not exhibit inertia, because inertia would mean you wouldn't need a container that's contained on all parts. Like water, you need a container on its bottom and its sides, but you don't need a container at its top. But with gas, you need a container bottom, sides, and top, because gas does not exhibit inertia. So that gas is going to expand out in every direction it can, and you won't keep a purity of it because it's going to mix in and integrate with all the other types of gas in the air. So he destroyed his own argument straight away there by saying that the container is necessary, because he's basically stating, why is the container necessary for gas? A container with top, bottom, and sides. Why is that necessary? A solid container, because it doesn't exhibit inertia. And the second thing he killed himself with was when he started speaking about temperature, right? Because them two things, what the effect of temperature on gas, and the fact that gas having weight, gas not having inertia, and the effect of temperature on gas, they're both claimed to be gravity. Their claim is that gravity gives gas weight because gas has mass, so gas has inertia, and that the reason that the more greater density of gas is that the surface is due to the surface of the Earth is due to gravity again. But he's after just admitting that there is no inertia, so there can't be mass, so it can't be weight, even in his paradigm of mass times acceleration. And temperature, temperature changes within the gas when it as it expands, right? Because there's less concentration of it. So he's stating in both times that the gas is going to expand, and then he's adding, so it's not going to exhibit inertia, and then he's adding in temperature. Where is gravity in all this? What does gravity actually do? Besides the fact that the force he's talking about is 106 years out of date. Where is his gravity? What's that supposed to be doing? Because it's not giving anything weight when it comes to gas. And it's obviously not creating what the temperature is creating, because he even stated himself, temperature. Where is G in PV equals nRT? It's not in there because it doesn't exist. G doesn't exist. And so consequently, it has no place in the ideal gas law. Thank you.
Yeah, almost like you're saying you can't have entropic change without temperature change. Like, nobody's talking about temperature or heat. Just talking about gas expanding into the gaps that you said it could expand into, which is why you need to put it in the container to keep it pure, right? I love how the concession comes with a nice little what's the word? A disclaimer. Right? Oh, you need obviously you need a container to weigh the gas just to keep it pure. Not because you're not going to have any damn gas there if you don't have a container to weigh, right?
Well, that image, that oh my gosh, I don't even know how to say this. The image, he said, look, I'm not going to stand on the scale and weigh my fart because I'd have to. I'll let you finish.
You could rephrase what was said into, I'm going to need a container to keep the gas pure if I'm going to weigh it. So in other words, to weigh it, I need a container. But in the same way, if you're going to ascribe weight to the atmosphere, sphere-shaped air, likewise, to ascribe weight to it, you need a container. So it needs to be contained. Now, they've got an arbitrary line that they say, well, this is basically where all the gas is. You're like, no. If you're going to actually ascribe an amount to it, you'd need it to be contained. Because how else are you going to calculate it? You calculate it based on volume. Well, how are you going to get the volume without a container? Well, you can't. When you describe weighing gases down here, even though that's ludicrous, then they still need containment. They'll admit it all day long until you get to their sky vacuum. Then suddenly container not required, just gravity. You're like, okay, let's see you weigh gas with gravity then. Oh, well, you can't. It spans out to fill the space. You'd need to put it in a container. And so you go on.
Well, there's a direct correlation between the density of the gas and its weight. Because I can open up. I mean, I've got cups all over the place here. I can put it on a scale and I'm weighing just the cup. But as soon as I put it in a compressed, the weight will increase. So there does seem to be a correlation between the density, like the gas being condensed more tightly inside a container than not. There seems to be a relationship to me, but I could be wrong.
What, Boyle's Law?
Well, gas
I'm
is
talking
still
about
matter.
when you weigh the gas. I'm talking about weighing the gas.
But gas is still matter. So all matter is made of physical stuff. So it's all matter is, I know it's an oxymoron or a stupid thing to say, but all matter is made of matter. So matter is physical, it's real. So we'll have weight, but it's the behavior of that phase change is what's important. So you can condense it. You can put a half a liter of gas into a cup and weigh it, right? Weigh it, a sealed container and weigh it. And then you put a liter of the same gas into that and weigh it. And the liter will obviously weigh more than the half a liter, right? In volume. Because the gas is made of matter, so it does have a weight.
No.
Hang on.
No. Hold on. Let him get to the end. He's right, but you've got to be able to force the gas into that small container. You need something like a compressor to compress it.
Yeah, you have to control the gas and compress it into the container. And then you have to seal the container. So, we think of weight because we're conditioned to think of weight as a linear downward force, right? That's how we think. Oh, weight means down. But matter having weight, having what we consider weight, gas is still matter. It's still made of something, but its behavior, right, means that it shows its behavior is that it's non-inertial. Let's just say, if that's a good term to use, it doesn't exhibit inertia. So its
then
behavior.
It's not weight.
Hang on. But I'm talking about there's a convention about how we view weight, right? It can be weighed, but you can't. You have to contain it, right? Because you have to put it into a state where it is contained by something that does have inertia. That's where I'm going with it. Like the gas itself won't exhibit any inertia. It'll just expand out in all directions and continue to do that. Continue to do so. Whereas you have to, 1 second, you have to put it into, you have to leave me finish because you keep on coming in on me now. So I'm not after getting to where I'm after losing my original point because of that. Just leave me finish and you can say whatever you want after that. So gas does not exhibit inertia, but that doesn't mean that it can't be weighed. It can still be weighed, but it must be concentrated and sealed into a container that does have inertia. That's the only way you can weigh it. It on its own does not exhibit inertia, so it will expand out in all directions. So it's not a mass in there as they term it. It can't be because it doesn't have inertia. So you can't give it a weight by mass times acceleration because it isn't a mass in their vocabulary, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's how I say it. In their vernacular, it's a mass.
Can I rebuttal now? Because you basically undid the entire point I originally made in rebuttal to Akumu Virus's statements, and that is gas do not have weight. They have a density, though, and weight is a derived concept, including mass, from air weight, weighing in air. Now, if you take a bucket with a lid on it, and you don't put anything in the bucket, but you do put the lid on it, then effectively it has gas in it, and that will not register as weight. And then if you then replace that gas with another gas, that's still really not going to weigh more unless the gas is literally compacted and all that. And then its density kind of changes, shifts the offset. So the only way to effectively weigh any gas is within a vacuum. because there the relative density offset is maximized. The medium density is reduced to almost zero, and then you can sort of make out a weight differential, which is still a derived concept.
But
so
it
I
won't be
disagree.
weight.
Gas don't have weight.
Hold
They
on,
only have density.
hold on. No. So what you're saying is you put a scale at the bottom of a vacuum, and then you open the valve that has some gas in a box so that it's suddenly occupying what was formerly a vacuum. And you're saying that you'll then get, if you press the tear button on the scales prior to doing this, so it says 0, once the gas is released, suddenly you'll get a registered number on the scale. That's what you're basically saying. Yeah.
It would have to be completely
Oh my
sealed.
God. Thank you. I'm just confirming your point. Yeah. That's what you're saying to do. But all you're getting is a pressure inside that what was a vacuum chamber is now just a capsule for whatever amount of gas you've got in there. Now, if you release more, it'll register more on the scale because there's a higher pressure. And if you pump more gas in than the outside pressure of the vacuum chamber by way of a compressor, then you'll get an even higher register. But the overall quantification is incorrect when you use a scale, something that's measuring the downward vector of something that's got greater density than air by conception that we've derived and is useful, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to gases, they're qualified by the amount of pressure, and different types of gases are going to exert different forces on their containment. Now, you can call that different density, but calling it a different weight is kind of a bastardization of something that starts and ends with how many impacts on the walls of the container, all around it, not just down, which is what your scale gives you.
Wait, what? No,
May I make a
different
comment?
weight.
Let Alwyn respond
Can I
first,
please
then
rebut
yes.
First? No, that what I said about weight was like, that's an old statement that I made like 2 years ago even. The weight is basically air weight. That's the standard for it. It's derived from density based on on the pressure differential of the scale in a regular pressurized air environment. That's regular weight. That's what it's derived from. And yeah, you have to basically minimize that if you want to weigh something that's actually less dense than the air. Otherwise, you could never get any differential. It will just go in the minus. It won't make any sense.
Yeah, no, that I agree with.
Right. That's what I tried to make out. And added, it technically doesn't have weight. Now, even weight as a what do you call it? As a nomer is kind of off. It's Newtonian per default, but we've gotten used to it because it's integrated in our lingo of measuring things in society. But it is technically wrong. Density is the only universal nomer for the concept, really.
Right. Well, they can factor it in terms of when they calculate things or back calculate them into newtons. This was something Adam was explaining to us about a year ago.
All right, then we agree. It's a complicated subject, very easily confused.
Whoever it
Well,
was that was...
if you take a scale into a walk-in fridge or into a freezer that you can walk in, it's not going to have a different reading regardless if the density of the air inside is more denser or not. It's not going to make a difference unless you have pressure inside.
I heard the other day, I heard it claimed that, say, for example, a propane tank, due to gravity and the weight of gases, there is more pressure at the bottom of the tank than there is throughout the rest of the tank. There's actually more pressure on the inside, on the bottom of the tank, than anywhere else in the tank. And they claim that can be measured.
No, what that is that towards the bottom of the tank, what it is there is a more likely a phase change happening. So it's becoming more liquidy towards the bottom of the tank. So that means that there's a greater amount of density at the bottom of the tank. So and because if it's becoming more liquidy, it's gaining inertia, right? What
liquidy?
Why would propane?
Hang on.
What do you mean liquidy? Is there a half state between liquid and gas?
By that, it means the intermolecular spaces are becoming so small that no longer would they be defined as gaseous behavior. They're starting to impede each other too much, and they take on almost semi-fluid-like behavior. So it's kind of this interstitial.
Semi-fluid?
state.
Is there that's what I'm asking. Is there a state that is between gas and liquid? A halfway state?
Well,
Does that
Not a
exist?
state. No, there's not a state.
Never heard
no.
about that. It's either
No, there's
gas
not
or
a
liquid,
state.
as far as I know. It doesn't get in
Special
between.
properties.
Yeah, well, I mean, gas. When gas starts to become starts to phase change into a liquid, the gas itself will start to become more dense because it has to. How could it?
Yeah,
it
but
can't
it's
just
still
go from
gas,
straight to liquid,
right?
and
Just
still keep
concede
the
his
same
point,
density.
Brian. Hold on. So he doesn't interrupt constantly. He's saying there's no in between stage. You can describe the
No,
process.
I'm saying I never heard of this.
No, there isn't. You're right. You can describe the process. That's a phase change. But liquidy, if you want to nitpick and say, look, what do you mean liquidy state? It's either liquid or gas. Well, he's just saying phase change. That's all Brian meant. But hopefully Brian will just
Yeah,
agree
but-
with you.
100% correct. He's not 100% correct though, Nathan. Because if we take water vapor and then condensed water vapor are clouds. So that's in between water vapor and rain.
No, that's no. That's not correct either. You can take a gas.
It
and
is.
you can.
It
That's
is.
not true. You can squash a gas
it is.
down to the point artificially where there's no gaps between it, and it still be gas.
Yeah, but no, it is, Nathan. The clouds are condensed water vapor. They are not the same as normal water vapor.
What?
Oh, you're wrong there.
That can't
What
be.
is condensed water vapor?
That's impossible. You can see it, so it can't be in gaseous state. It might be very well on the edge of being liquid and can easily turn back into gas, but it is not gas because otherwise we couldn't see it.
That's what he's saying.
And I always ignore water as an
All right.
example, especially at standard temperature and pressure. It's the most unique thing. It's never a good example for it either. Stick with just the gases. And the gases are behaving like gases, but because the pressure is so high, there's so many of them in such a small space, that they actually the intermolecular spaces between each molecule is reduced to the level that they would be as if they were a liquid. So that's why you've got this sloshing in the bottom of a tank. It's because the pressure in that is so much that it's forcing them into that phase change. But no, there isn't another phase in between those two. It's just you've got to imagine that passage that as that compression gets more and more, eventually they're not able to act like gases anymore. They act like liquids. They're still able to flow over each other, not acting like a solid, but there isn't enough space for them to bounce around freely because there's another one next to them, so they're flowing over each other.
Yeah, can I finish what I was saying?
The point was...
But just let this guy
Oh,
make
sorry,
his objection again.
okay.
Go ahead, Bacon.
Yeah, the point was they don't have to be near the density of liquid for you to have a higher pressure below the tank. That's supposed to happen with any fluid. And the denser it is the fluid, the more...
You can create a higher pressure.
Hold on,
and a
Brian.
lower
Just let him
pressure
get to the end.
with-
Hold on. Just make...
Yeah,
Well,
the
he didn't-
denser
he
is the
finished my
fluid
statement.
that you put on any container, the greater will be that difference. It's not
Okay,
about
the
them getting
pressure you
close
can
to
choose-
liquid. They don't have to get close to liquid. They could be far from becoming liquid, and you're still gonna have that difference of pressure.
Okay, I'm going to speak now because you came in the middle of what I was saying and you attacked what I was saying, and now every time you're speaking, you're stopping, giving the impression you're stopped, and then you start talking again. So I'm going to speak now. So for a gas to become a liquid, it has to become more dense. That means the gas particles have to concentrate together. That's how it becomes a liquid, right? So the gas is still a gas, but it has to become more dense. Right? Pressure is due to temperature. Temperature controls pressure in that situation. As long as the volume and the volume of gas and the container and everything stays equal, temperature will control the pressure. So you're mixing up temperature with density. You're making up pressure with density. That's what's going on there, right? Because for that gas to become a liquid, it can't just go from being a gas straight to being a liquid. It has to start to condense. And then it becomes a liquid. That's how it happens. But it's still in a gaseous form. But when it's becoming a liquid, it condenses.
I'm not sure if that's related to the point I was trying to bring.
Well, I don't know what point you were bringing
well,
because
let's let him
you were
make it
only
then.
speaking about
Okay.
propane.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead then? Make your point again.
Yeah, right. As I understood, the explanation seemed to be that below the tank, the pressure is higher because the thing is getting closer to how a liquid is, right? Because there's less space in between the molecules. Yes, there is space between the molecules because the closer you get to the bottom of the tank, the more things are above that level, so there is more pressure. But that's all. That's all you need to have this change of pressure, and you
Sorry.
don't have to change the temperature.
So you're under the impression
They could be all at the same temperature.
Hold on. You're under the impression that because gas, if you've got gas in a tank, you're saying that there's more gas above, therefore it's pressing down on the stuff below more?
That's what he's
Yes,
saying.
there is.
Hey,
It doesn't have to be gas.
Brian, I'm
any
asking him.
fluid.
But he came in attacking me, Nathan.
Yeah.
Sure, but I'm asking him.
And he's after just stating something that's completely incorrect. He
I
said
know.
temperature has
Brian,
nothing to do with
Brian,
pressure. That's
Brian,
basically what he just said.
Brian, yeah, I know. I'm way ahead of you. Thanks. I still want to hear him say it.
Yeah, there's no distinction between fluid and liquid in this scenario. It works with both. Both have weight, and they both press on what's below them, and is pressed by what's above them.
Okay.
So the closer you get to the bottom of the tank, the more fluid is pressing that at the level.
So yeah,
So
you've
it happens-
reaffirmed what I've asked you to confirm. You're under the impression that the gas above presses down on the gas below. So gas has weight. So that means that gas is going down then.
Yes.
So you think gas goes down?
If that's the only thing you have there, yes.
Gas expands in all directions. Doesn't go down.
Yeah, but they
at 9.8
do
meters per
have
second
weight.
per second.
Yeah.
It doesn't do.
If they were
Hello,
weightless.
hello. I cleared the airwaves for you. Now shut up.
What?
Subtlety's not your strong point. Yeah, when I'm in the middle of talking, that would be to refute what you've just claimed, which is gas go down, go boom boom, like bouncy balls. A solid. Gas doesn't do that. I tried to explain that gas expands in all directions. All vectors. Not down 9.8 meters per second to press on the gas below it. It expands in all directions, all vectors. So no, there isn't a downward extra vector applied to gas. That's not how gas behaves. What on earth are you babbling about? The gas below isn't pushed on by the gas above.
Can I answer?
It's a statement of fact.
So-
That's not how gas behaves.
Yeah, naturally gases expand in all directions.
Yes.
That's true. But that doesn't mean they can't be subject to forces.
Sorry.
So one
Stop.
doesn't invalidate
Stop.
the other.
Stop. So, let's just summarise. As you now concede, gas expands in all directions. So not down 9.8 meters per second to press on the gas below then. All vectors, all directions, not just down to press on the gas below.
Sure, I never said only down.
Sorry,
But if you have a
sorry. You had it squashing the stuff below a minute ago. What do you mean you didn't say down? It was squashing the stuff below a minute.
I didn't say.
Hello,
I didn't
subtlety, not your strong point. Middle of me
There's so many
talking.
means.
Yes, shut up. That means shut up. Middle of my sentence that refutes what you says doesn't mean you need to interrupt it constantly. I realise
It does, you
what
misquoted me.
I say must be very painful for you and therefore require continued interruption. Yeah, sit your ass
Oh,
down.
misquoted me.
Yeah, sit your ass down. Yes, you did. You had it going down, pressing down on the stuff below. That's down, shithead. Yeah, you did. I know that's
Yeah.
painful when you've already
Yeah, you
conceded
did.
it doesn't do that and expands in all directions, right? And me pointing that out for the second time is definitely going to require lots of interruption. You've conceded it doesn't go down. So it's not pressing down on the gas below then.
Right. So those.
Right then, fuckwit. So right. So not down go boom boom then, stupid idiot.
What?
Not down, go boom, boom to press on the stuff below then, all directions, all vectors, not down 9.8 meters per second squared. Not just down to press on the stuff below, as you claim. Are you slow?
I'll repeat again. I never said just down. I agree I said down, but I never said...
So you never said just down, so how is it pressing down on the stuff below? If it's not down, it's actually all directions. Explain that to me, because it's a contradiction.
It's very simple to understand. It's both. They expand in all directions, and you can have force applied to them in a single direction. It doesn't invalidate the others. You can have the two at the same time. You can have forces to all directions and add a second force to a specific direction. It's that simple.
But gas isn't doing that. Are you slow? Gas isn't giving you an extra downward vector to measure. Are you slow? We've covered this 3 times. Now you're inferring that there's also a downward vector to this gas. No. Explain to me, given that it's going in all directions equally, all vectors, where'd you get the extra down bit? Where's that coming from?
It's the weight.
What
It's the
weight? Weight?
Of the gas.
Weight?
Yes.
That's invoking gravity.
No.
Yeah.
The explanation
Yeah.
of weight.
Yeah,
would be
weight's invoking gravity.
But you...
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Weight is just...
Yeah. Weight's invoking gravity.
So you guys deny weight.
You're invoking gravity.
Even weight?
Sorry.
No. I never said gravity.
So
You
which
want me to say
vectors?
gravity
Which
because they don't
which
believe.
vector is weight measured in?
Which vector? What do you mean? That's the vector. It's called
Down.
weight.
You need help? What's going on?
Yeah.
not hear the
we
question?
believe that gravity.
Sorry, which
explains weight,
vector
but you don't
is
have
weight
to,
measured
you
in?
don't have to
Hello,
appeal to
are you
gravity.
dumb? Do you not hear the question? Is this hard?
question?
Is this hard? Harder than you thought, right? Which vector is weight measured in?
I don't understand this question.
You don't
weight
understand
is the
this
vector.
question. It's fairly simplistic.
Yeah, weight is a vector.
So you've got a parcel you
understood
want
the
to weigh the
words, but
weight
they don't
of.
make sense
If
to me.
you've got a parcel, Dumbo, and you want to weigh it, do you stick it on your wall?
Can you stop the name calling, man? And relax. We're just
Dumb shit. Which vector is weight measured in? Dumbo, thicko, retard, you, shit for brains. That's you. Dumb. Dumb as fuck if you don't know the answer to this. If you don't like me insulting you, don't be stupid. If you don't know the answer, that makes you a retard. So it's a fact. Is it a fact or do you know the answer? Take your time, Dumbo. Or tell me that you don't like the insults for your stupidity that you're displaying. You are thick. Don't have to like it, but
Right,
meet the
your
flat
question
earther.
is non-
I take great pleasure in giving examples of people's stupidity. Not just an insult. You are demonstrably stupid.
any of basic physics.
Sorry, do you want to chant through
Have a
me
good day.
telling you how stupid you are? Yeah, I bet you do. Yeah, I don't mind. Yeah, you chant straight through me telling you are stupid. Fact. Not just an insult, it's a fact. You've demonstrated that fact here. Gas expands in all directions. Not downward vector. You've said it's got weight. I say, well, what vector's weight? I don't understand the question. Suddenly you're thick. Or maybe you're attempting to obfuscate your own stupid, contradictory point that tries to insert gravity. That would be a downward vector. I'm asking which vector weight is measured in. You don't seem to understand the question. So, thick, stupid moron. Gas expands in all directions. It doesn't have a downward vector to push on the gas below. That's just you inferring gravity when you automatically assume it by using the word weight, ascribed by way of downward vector. Gas doesn't have a single downward vector like weight at 9.8 meters per second. Gas expands in all directions. Is that clear, Dumbo? Talking to you, Dumbo, the thick one, the one that's gone silent now, the one who's not very smart. You are thick. Hope you enjoy a flat earther telling you, in no uncertain terms, how stupid you are, with examples. And pulling apart your stupid claim that gas goes down go boom boom, wait! You think gas has weight like bouncy balls? Wow, you're about as smart as PhD Thunderfoot retard, who also thinks gas go down, go boom boom. It doesn't. Okay, thicko? You want to employ some bleating about how you don't like being quote-unquote insulted for your own stupidity? Or are you just going to sit there in silence now that your stupid argument's been pulled apart by a flat earther? That'd be me. Good dog, know your place.
Yeah, weight is a derived concept. Gas doesn't have weight.
Think you
really.
Good. Oh, don't insult me. I don't understand what you mean when you ask me what vector weight is measured in. Yeah, you do. You just don't know that you've lost.
He came in very arrogantly, thinking that he had some kind of gotcha or some kind of point. And he was trying to focus on a midway phase between gas and liquid. And he lost it completely when I brought up a cloud. That completely destroyed him, right? Because I did give an example of that, even though I wasn't claiming that. But he was very arrogant, and suddenly he started showing more manners. And then he started making stupid claims about gas having a downward vector and how temperature has nothing to do with pressure. It showed like this is the people we deal with. They speak arrogantly without having any idea what they're talking about. Like, does gas exhibit inertia? Yes or no? Right? If yes, then show us how gas exhibits inertia. If no, then it can't be mass, so it can't be mass times acceleration, given it weight in their paradigm. Nathan, I'm sorry for coming in. He annoyed me.
No, not at all. I totally get it. But by the same token, I do want the full claim to be heard without anything impeding it whatsoever. Because the last thing I need is them to say, if he'd have heard the full claim, he'd have understood my presupposition that gas go down, go boom, boom. No, I want him to say it in full.
No, you're right. I was being selfish. I was allowing allowing the fact that he came in and attacked me, and I didn't get a chance to instantly respond to him. And I was being selfish. I wasn't showing patience, and I should have thought about that because I would normally think about that. So I apologise.
Exactly. People will latch on to the tiniest detail. That's why I was talking about Bob the Science Guy, and let's not harp on all the time about him having creepy eyes or looking scary, because if you constantly focus on something like that, people will call you out on that part of the argument rather than saying he's got a tangent plane that he's acquiring 90 degrees to get the GP of the star, but yet he's drawing it with a curve that doesn't match the angle anymore. If you just focus on that rather than Bob's got really creepy eyes, look how creepy this guy is, and he's got a tangent plane that doesn't give him 90 degrees, etc., etc. Which bit do you think people will latch on to?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, if you focus on the wrong thing, people latch on to the wrong thing.
Yeah, less of focusing on the creepy eyes, more of focusing on the tangent plane that won't give him a 90-degree angle to a GP if a star is measuring with a sextant.
Right. Can I, by the way, insert...
Brian, he just didn't like your use of the word liquidy.
Yeah. Before Owen goes, just, yes, chocolate. He hears a word and goes, oh, yeah, they are dumb. Liquidy? And he couldn't help himself. Liquidy? Yeah, dumbos? Yeah,
Exactly.
you think there's a third state between liquid and gas, do you, Dumbo? That was his attitude. That's why I took a very sharp tongue with him after he made absolutely damn sure to make his claim of gas go down, go boom, boom clear.
That's why I got a bit overexcited and jumped in as well. So it was very noticeable. He thought he had some intellectual high ground.
Yeah, while I was letting him, that's why Brian wanted to jump. It was beautiful, Brian. You don't have to apologise. It was epic that it happened. Because while I'm going, no, have more rope.
It is
More rope.
that
Have it.
there can be more pressure on the bottom of a tank full of gas. So that is true then, right? Am I understanding this?
Maybe. But
I just want to make sure because I never heard that.
I didn't hear the question.
In a,
he's saying, can there be
like
more
propane
pressure on the
tank,
bottom of a
it
tank?
was completely equally pressurized.
If you blow up a balloon, does that would imply the same logic, wouldn't it?
No, it's different with a tank, because if a tank of gas is sitting there stationary, and I showed this before, whereas in some factories when they have gases that are mixed, let's just say inside a tank, what can happen is over the course of time, with that tank sitting stationary, right, and there might be a temperature differential between the floor where the base of the tank is and the top of the tank. What can happen is the gas at the bottom of the tank starts to condense a bit. It starts to become a bit more dense, and it heads towards a phase change of liquid. And the gas at the top is not as condensed. So the only reason that happens is due to temperature and inactivity, right? There's no dynamicness going on. It's shielded from all the wind and everything else. It's shielded from the dynamic world we live in. So it's just inside this tank with a colder temperature at the bottom and a warmer temperature at the top. So it's like a temperature gradient creates a kind of a pressure gradient in there. So what actually happens is it's just the stage. What they have to do is before they send out these tanks, because what was happening is they had two different gases in there, and one would phase change sooner than the other with a cold temperature. Let's just say whatever degrees, one will start to phase change or head for a phase change before the other one. What was happening is when the people got the tanks at wherever they were going, they would go to take the gas out and use it, and they weren't only getting one type of gas. They weren't getting the two gases when they first started opening the seal. So what they had to do was roll the tanks along the ground to mix up the gas again and to excite it more and to equalize the temperature basically, and to create temperature, like the friction of the rolling will create temperature. So before they can send them out. So that's really what happens.
I mean, thank you. And I'm grateful that Adam's put a pictorial example on screen, and I'm glad that you can explain it. That is wonderful. But in terms of the, no pun intended, expansion of the guy's argument, where does it go from there? So he's begging the question of a force that's applying to the gas that's making it more dense at the bottom, right? That's going to be his assertion. And further to that, he's going to assert that that's how Earth behaves. So essentially what he's going to assert at that point is a cause and effect relationship that's going to cause what he's going to claim to be a natural phenomena. Pressure gradient is going to be the phenomena, and the cause of that is going to be gravity. So he's got a cause and effect relationship that's reliant on a force that's not a force, that you can think of as a force, that's going to have absolutely no scientific validity attached to it, even though it's a cause and effect relationship that's going to be occurring in nature, according to him, and then offered up by way of a false analogy with a tank, right? A container. So, I was just toying with the guy, really.
False analogy, just explanation whilst it's on.
Yeah, it's on screen.
I said earlier about a balloon. That's what we should be talking about, just putting a particular amount of gas into a container and allowing it to have just gas behavior. That's what we're talking about with gas go down, boom, 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 demonstrate that. When we're talking about containment under high pressure, the reason we do it, it says there, look, 270 times greater. If all you did was put in that tank just enough propane vapor to fill it, yeah, so that no extra pressure was in there to force the formation of any liquid, it'd just fill it up and it would just sit there on its own, just one propane. But when you put lots of different gases in, you get different liquids formed. They will, due to relative density, separate, which is what Brian's talking about when they have to roll the tanks. They have to mix the liquids because you fill the tank to such high pressure that 50% of it in there is liquid. And as you let it off, right, what happens is equilibrium plays a role. What happens is the vapor, that's what goes out at the top, yeah? And as the vapor pressure is released, as you're drawing on it, then at that phase point, which is normally stable, within the tank, you've now released the vapor from the top. That means there's an equilibrium that needs recalibrating. So liquid propane will now be able to convert into the free space that's been created by the removal of the propane vapor. So you keep your constant level and the liquid goes down. That's what's happening. Now, there's that mixing. Now, at that surface layer as well, it's an active surface layer. So you might be able to describe very subtle differences between the top and the bottom with respect to the liquid propane layer. But with regards to the rest of the gas molecules in that vapor state, they're all behaving as described in gas law.
That's right. Can I insert an important little factor that a lot of people might have overlooked, and that is, even if there is only gas and it's not sufficient pressure to form a liquid at the bottom, then if you release gas from a tank, and I have had propane tanks, I've been a goldsmith and I worked with them. When you release gas, it'll get really cold when it comes out. So Brian totally called it. There's a lot of temperature influences happening when dealing with gas tanks like that. And temperature is provably an influence on gas pressure gradation within closed containers. And that's a fact. So yeah, totally called it. I've actually been privy to see a demonstration in a transparent container to see it getting pressurized and then see the droplets form on the very thick glass or plexiglass container on the inside, and then as they form droplets, they go down and those form a liquid. So yeah, it doesn't actually gradiate by itself at the bottom and then the liquid forms at the bottom. No, everywhere on the container surface is where the liquid forms and then rolls down in its liquid state.
Sure. Can I just address
Thank
the
you
elephant
very
in the
much
room?
for all that.
So again,
Sorry,
Scrass, go ahead.
I was just saying thank you very much. I appreciate all that and the examples to support the explanation. So thank you.
Well, there was an elephant in the room, though, wasn't there? Because for this example to beg the question, what's required in this example to beg this question of gas go down, go boom, boom? Who said it?
Container.
Right. So if you're going to beg the question of gas go down, go boom, boom, by way of an assumption of a downward vector being applied to something that's expanding in all directions, all vectors, then you still need a container to make the example. Yeah, you're damn right you do. So you still need a container to have a gas pressure differential. Yeah, that's right. First the container, then the gas pressure, then the gas pressure differential. So if you're going to backwork that and try and say that, look, I can demonstrate a gas pressure differential in a container, that's because gas go down, go boom, boom. All right. So we still need a container, though, right? Even if he wants to beg the question.
But let's argue about liquidy, though.
well, Brian started this off by saying, where's the G in PV equals nRT?
Exactly. I just like to state...
where's the V in the PV equals nRT? Where's the V they got? What you need a container for V?
Well, where's their V and where is the G? So in PV equals nRT, you've got a V. That's your volume. Oh, right. What's your volume? Oh, a huge amount of empty space you call space. That's your V. Well, what happens when you apply that? We're all dead. That's what happens when you apply it to your space, sky vacuum. Right? We'd all be dead. That's what happens. So they say, no. G. Yeah, where's G in this gas law? It's not in there. And what about the V? You're not accounting for that. You're just going to draw a line called Carmen and say that's the V. Oh, yeah, that works. No G, and they haven't got a V.
And they have no R.
Can't have G without R.
C.
G, no R and no V? G.
Hey?
What is that? What is that form? Can you just tell me what all the letters that stand for in that formula? What's the N? I'm not sure what the N is.
number of molecules. P is pressure, V is volume, N is number of molecules, R is the gas constant, and T is temperature.
How do they know the number of molecules in that equation?
Well, I think it's a calculated amount. Adam would know maybe a bit more about that than me. He knows more about chemistry, but it's a calculated amount based on whatever gas.
I don't think that's what he's asking. He's saying when he replies to Earth, how do you know how many gas particles you've got? It's a bloody good question.
Yeah.
Apparently, you need that V.
Well, the reason I'm wondering about this equation, I'm not good at math, but I remember in math class, if you had all the one side of the equation and then you're missing one of the letters, you could swap the equation and solve for the other side. So if PV equals nRT and we don't know what the V is of Earth, but do we have all the other numbers? Because can't we then flip it to the other side and solve for V?
We do have we do have a heliocentric V.
Yeah, I'm saying though for us, like, could we solve the volume of our container size? Is that something we could do?
Ooh, yeah. I don't see why not. If we knew how many gas particles we've got, but how'd you count them? Do you want me to start?
Yes.
Wouldn't it be? Couldn't you maybe like just isolate?
You'd have
like
to
an
know
inch
how
of-
many other particles are in the V that you're going to calculate to do that.
That's why.
But couldn't you like just like isolate the average of the particles?
Well, it's difficult because there's a gradient and we don't know the exact temperature insert, right? That's also an influence, but it is technically possible.
No, you could.
You'd have to know the volume.
No, you couldn't. You couldn't. You could only state an average pressure for the areas you've sampled. It'd still leave you with the unknown of the stuff you haven't sampled. So
you don't know what you don't know.
It wouldn't be valid. Exactly. Yeah.
You could potentially derive it if you knew how the temperature influences are gradiating what is within reach and measurable. It is potentially derivable.
Even if you got all that data, you'd have to pre-assume that applied to the areas you hadn't confirmed in.
You would have to know the volume. Yeah, without knowing the exact volume, you can't do any of this.
Really? You couldn't derive it, you couldn't back engineer that from knowing the temperature influences and the gradient result from it?
And the number of particles.
From everywhere in the container, Owen?
I think what we're trying to say, this is a question for Adam, because Adam's kind of tried to allude to this already, right? You can roughly back calculate it. You're never going to get it exact, but if you've got enough parameters to put into the equation, and then you can take averages and derive more and more averages across a wider and wider expanse, you've still got to assume the amount of area, though, haven't you? So how'd you get that bit?
Well, because you've only taken an average, of it. So you've still got to then figure out the volume to work out the total number of molecules. Or, like I said, the other way is if you were somehow given by God the total number of molecules within containment, then you could back it from there. But you've got to measure the unmeasurable, haven't you?
But you could at least
to get the other unmeasurable parameter that you seek.
So, we won't be able to do it, and I'll tell you why. Right? Even if we try to back engineer it, we won't be able to do it, and I'll tell you why. Because all we got is high altitude balloons, and at a certain point up in the sky, they fail. So whatever little bit is above them, there's probably not a whole lot above them, but whatever little bit is above them, we don't know what it is. So we don't know the pressure. We can't calculate.
But what if we could?
Or it could be a whole lot. We don't even know.
Hold on.
Well,
what if
you just don't know
something? What if we could actually figure out where is the top? What if we get a missile with a giant paintball on top of it and hit it, just to get a blotch temporary to size up how high the barrier seems to be, and then you have some data extra.
That's the Z coordinates. You've just got X and Y now.
Right.
And
well,
then
it's
you
a
can work
start.
out the volume.
But then you could at least already much easier size up like how things are being gradiated within the vertical, right?
In the bit you've sampled, yeah.
Adam, it's easier said than done.
I would just like to state, about just something with Arwen area. Arwen, when you stated about how liquid droplets form on the outside of the container and they flow down and become a liquid at the base of the container. You were talking about earlier.
Yes, I've seen that demonstrated in chemistry class.
Yeah, but in a dynamic system, will that happen? And what I was talking about when it came to temperature, obviously that is a temperature after causing the phase change, or pressure with temperature causing the phase change. But what I thought about is gas itself. The gas, if there was a colder temperature underneath a canister, let's say, of gas, and a warmer temperature at the top, what's going to happen is the gas that's down closer to the floor, the gases that are down there are going to be more concentrated, and they're going to be less dynamic than the gases at the top. They won't be expanding as much.
There's an example of this.
PV equals nRT. Now, you can still apply that within any system, there can be areas of different T, and therefore that would thingy. But the overall system is subject to that because the T is going to transfer. So all you can do is create a gradient between the two T's, and that's what will happen. We did it, Zach and a guy called Adam. They set up a rig with containers, one end in ice and the other they're blown with a blowtorch, and that kind of exemplified it. And we did demonstrate differential pressures. But that's makes sense. And logically, if you think about what's happening in the middle, it spreads one way or the other. There is a gradient in there because even if you stop or take the ice away or stop heating it, eventually the tank, and keep the conditions the same, it requires you to alter conditions and create different environments for that effect. And a cold floor is one thing that will do that, in winter, won't it? And that will have an effect on the tank. But if you put that tank in equilibrium so it's steady, then these effects don't occur. They only occur when you introduce something that needs to equilibrate.
Yeah, and like a tank are always solid. So all these tanks in factories are steel. So if you think about winter time, a cold concrete floors, that's what they're going to have in a factory. They're not going to have under floor heating for most factories. So you'll have steel, and steel can become very hot or very cold. It can go either way, isn't it? It's one of those things. So the bottom of that canister could be of the steel canister. The steel itself could be at very much even a degree or two difference. It depends on some of them are like 5 foot tall. Could have a degree or two difference from the very bottom to the very top, or something. Maybe not a degree or two. Maybe not. I don't know. But there would definitely be a difference, and that would definitely affect the gases that are inside it. The temperature controls the gas.
I used to have to deal with propane tanks when I drove a forklift for a couple of warehouses I used to work with, and the propane was always liquefied on the bottom, even during the summer.
Yep. And hey, look, you just have to open the nozzle just for a very short moment, and there's already a cooling effect happening at the top of the container, right? Because that immediately creates...
That don't even have to be propane. That could be just regular condensed air. Like I have
anything.
My current job, I have
any pressurized
air in a can.
gas release. Any pressurized gas release, as soon as you open up the nozzle, it's gonna cool if you put your hand on top of it, you could literally freeze damage it if you do it long enough, because it's really cold when it comes out.
And the G not being in the PV equals nRT as well, Nathan. They did try and claim that, or have tried to claim that atmospheric pressure, which is begging the question, is different from gas pressure, right? But I showed, when I was done that presentation on the sun creating the gas pressure gradient and how it happens, I showed official links that states PV equals nRT from people who work in meteorology and stuff like that. PV equals nRT. That never changes, regardless of what gas you're using or what the circumstance is. It never changes. They used it.
It's almost like it's.
They use it. Sorry.
It's almost like it's standard, right?
Yeah, it's like it's just a standard.
So would that be why all the gas laws presuppose containers?
Yeah.
That brings us full circle back to that.
Well, it requires a container even to calculate gas pressure, you know? I find this the most fun fact of all. It's like, oh, you're so into math, right? You can presuppose anything. Well, how did you calculate that gas pressure?
I'll tell you how. Go to Master B, Nathan. We started the show by me telling you I had propane delivered to my property yesterday. I have one of 3 receipts here of one of 3 tanks. Tell me when you have it up. On the screen
I've
there.
got a picture of a tank.
No, not that. It's a copy of a receipt. You got it?
Yes.
Okay, so here's I have 3 tanks on the property. They're each 500 gallons. They can only fill it up to 80% because of expansion when it gets hot in the summer. So where did he begin? 33%. At $2.39, well, let's say $2.39, $2.40 per gallon. My bill for that one tank was $558.25. So he knew it was a 500-gallon tank container. He knows he can't go past 80. There's a gauge on it for the expansion of heat. And there's my bill. So he knows I know exactly how much propane I have in that tank at this moment. But how do I know that? I need a container.
Right, and you can measure the
just
volume
open it
of
up
what
and
is
count it.
inserted.
Right? You can count them?
Yeah, just open it up and count it, man. Because, I mean, gas goes down, goes boom, boom, right? So you could just...
Well, you know what? My
Don't
valve
give me
is
that
on,
scoff, Arwen.
my valve on my tank.
We were on such a high level. You had to bring it down.
Hang on. Chocolate's got a point here. If I wanted, which I did check into, the ability to have a pump that I could pump some of that propane out of the big tank into, say, a small barbecue 20 gallon tank that people use for their barbecues. I'd have to order a different tank, and the cost was like $3,000 because on those tanks you have a valve at the bottom. But my tank is the valve's only on top where it goes to the house. But in order to pump existing propane from a tank of my size, I need a nozzle at the bottom because it's got to come from the bottom. Does that tell you a lot?
There's one. What it tells you is, in all these tanks, the propane is liquid. The reason you can only fill it up that much is if it gets hot, okay, the gas will expand a little bit, yeah? But what will actually happen is the equilibrium shift between the proportions of vapor and liquid will have to shift more significantly, i.e. loads of liquid will be forced into vapor, yeah, because of the temperature change. So it's no longer going to sit there. Now, the power of that shift is so great that if the containment can't take it, the tank will explode. So for every liter of liquid propane, you're going to get 270 liters of propane vapor, yeah, turned around. So it's that differential, it's that equilibrium shift that causes the explosion. It's not just the small degree in the growth of the gas that causes these things to explode. And hopefully that demonstrates this isn't a balloon we're looking at. It's 80% filled, which is 80% liquid. And then that top is what he siphons off.
Perfect. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!